Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and author Danny Kelly. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Polly.
Nana, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are rallying in central London today. They're urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands on Oxford Street. Traffic there was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to the fashion shop Zara, while dozens of police officers followed the march. And today has been dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying last-minute Christmas gifts. And the great Christmas getaway is, of course, well underway now, with travellers facing long delays on rail and by road. The AA telling us it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. There is some good news, though, for motorists travelling to France via the port of Dover. Earlier, there were 90-minute delays, but now the authorities saying that backlog has cleared and there's no time needed now at those extra border controls. Rail passengers have been facing train cancellations, and with London Paddington closed for 4 days from tomorrow, Christmas Eve, travel expert Simon Calder says people do need to plan their journeys carefully.
So let's start at London Paddington, because we know that all the trains are going to stop as from late tonight. There won't be any until the 28th of December. We are seeing train cancellations to Bristol, to Cardiff, and coming back in the opposite direction due to shortage of train crew. The north of England is going to be even worse. Northern Trains has said, do not travel on some of our key routes. We won't have any trains. We can't get the staff to run them.
Simon Calder. Now, the father of a 4-year-old boy who was stabbed in East London has paid tribute to his young son. Kobe Makariah Dooley was found with knife injuries at home in Hackney on Wednesday. He later died in hospital. His dad says he'll be dearly missed and that the joy and laughter he brought to the world has been taken too soon. His mother, Keziah Makariah, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. The London Mayor is calling on the government to help provide aid to Ukraine by sending vehicles that would ordinarily be scrapped under the ULEZ scheme. Sadiq Khan has asked the Transport Secretary to enable those living in the capital to donate their vehicles if they wish. Under the scrappage scheme, Londoners with cars that fall foul of emission standards can claim up to £2,000 when their non-compliant vehicle is scrapped. And Ukraine will be celebrating Christmas on December the 25th this year. That's for the first time since 1917. The holiday is usually held on the 7th of January in accordance with the traditional Julian calendar of Russia. The move marks a step away from Russian practices. Moscow's attack on Ukraine has seen many Ukrainians reject the language, culture and customs of Russia. And bells rang out today across the Czech Republic and flags were flying at half-mast as the nation held a day of mourning for the victims of a mass shooting there. A Catholic Mass was held at the St Vitus Cathedral in Prague ahead of a minute's silence at Charles University, where the gunman killed 14 people before turning the gun on himself. The country's president, along with members of the public, have been lighting candles, laying flowers and paying their respects at memorials. Police are still trying to work out a motive for the attack. Here, junior doctors have returned to work after a 72-hour strike over pay, with NHS managers saying the action put patient safety at risk. Senior doctors were drafted in to cover appointments, but the Prime Minister said the action was disappointing, urging junior doctors to call off their strikes in the new year. The British Medical Association is urging the government to get back round the table and make what they call a credible offer. Talks broke down after they declined a 3% rise on top of the average 8.8% increase they were given in the summer. The next round of junior doctor walkouts will take place in the new year. And Rebecca Welch is making history today as the first woman to ever referee a Premier League match. The 40-year-old is taking charge of the Fulham-Burnley game today. She's been refereeing since 2010 and in January became the first female to officiate at a men's championship game. The Burnley manager, ahead of the match, welcomed the milestone moment, saying his players won't be changing their behaviour as she takes charge. That's the news on GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. It's almost Christmas. Yeah! Although I say that, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home and just eat and just watch TV. But listen, it's just coming up 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. On the way, we'll be speaking to our reporters around the country as we find out what's going on during the Christmas period and also give you some travel updates on what's happening if you're planning to leave your house. Then at 3:20, it's Climate Control, where we discuss all the conversation around the climate and whether we're set for a white Christmas, which will be in a couple of days. I'm not seeing it somehow, but what do you think? And what do you expect of 2024? We'll be talking about the rise of transgender identity politics in schools in My Political Spotlight this week. Dr. Pam Spur will be live in the studio discussing the issues as well as mental health during this time. That's on the way. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. So we are pretty much 2 days away from Christmas. And have you done all your shopping yet? I've actually been running around just buying stuff. I actually went on Amazon yesterday, and it said, oh, these things will arrive tomorrow, which is fantastic. Hopefully some of you have, because today obviously is Super Saturday, and a lot of people will be out there. It's going to be one of the busiest in-store shopping days of the year. Patrick Christie's was on Oxford Street yesterday as swarms of people were out and about getting Christmas presents.
Here on Oxford Street in London, 2 days before Christmas. Welcome to hell on earth. It's just horrendous. Have you just been doing a bit of panic buying for Christmas?
No, I was unsuccessful.
Why?
I was looking for vegan chocolate and a candle, and seemingly John Lewis had neither.
Okay, so what's the plan?
The plan is to go back home, recoup, go again tomorrow.
Every year it's the same thing that happens, like you forget, life gets busy and you're like, I got a family, I got a girlfriend, I got to get stuff for them.
Panic buying before Christmas?
No, I just came in to look for something, but it is a bit mad in there.
Why did you leave it so late?
It's not late.
It's not late? That's bold.
Yeah, it isn't. 25th. I've done it, it's done.
It's a shared panic.
No.
The panic is not over, it's just begun.
Starting.
I have not bought
actual
anything.
people who we need to buy things for have nothing yet.
Hold on a minute, you've just bought each other presents, right?
Yeah,
And you've not bought...
I got my niece something, so I'm a step there.
Rattle off the list of people you still need to buy for.
My dad, my brother, my other 2 brothers, my sister. That's it. So far.
it?
So far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, how many have you got?
My niece, my other niece, my nephew, my mom, my dad, my brother.
I only have to buy for my wife because she does everything else, so she's the most important person. As long as she sorts everyone else out, I'm all right.
Is she here?
She's on her way round the corner now, but you can't tell her that I haven't bought for her yet because she'll go mental.
What's your message for everyone who's in a rush today?
Good luck and Merry Christmas.
You seem very relaxed.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're about to go in.
Oh, you're about to go in?
About to go in. We just got here.
So you've not done all your Christmas shopping yet?
Just some Gym Shark stuff.
Okay, all right. Well, what's in the bag?
Sweatpants and t-shirt.
Is that for you?
Yeah.
So you've bought for yourself?
Yeah.
How are you getting on?
Living hell.
Right.
I need a glass of champagne.
Okay, all right. Look, talk me through what's happened so far.
I've come out shopping. I ended up just buying myself some stuff. I've had no presents yet, so this is it.
Don't leave your shopping too late, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. I went shopping for some other people and ended up buying myself this really luxurious dressing gown. You know, one of those, that really soft stuff. Yeah, it was so nice. But now, our London reporter Lisa Hartle is on Regent Street. Lisa, so what's it like out there? I thought London was busy with a lot of protesters.
Hello. Well, it's gotten busier than a couple of hours ago. It's much more buzzy now than it was. So 23rd of December is typically known as the busiest day over the Christmas period for shopping. Coupled with that, it's the Saturday before Christmas, known as Super Saturday. So 2 on the same day, double whammy. So we expected it to be extremely busy today. Now, it's a nice atmosphere. It's certainly not quiet, as you can see from the crowds of people walking on Regent Street. But I've been into a couple of the shops on Regent Street to ask them, is this a particularly busy day for you? And one of the shops said, well, we had a meeting this morning to prepare ourselves for how busy we expected it to be. And they said that they're really surprised that it actually isn't anywhere near as busy. They said it's even probably quieter in some of the shops than they sometimes get after payday. So a lot of people would have been paid yesterday. The other shop confirmed that it has been a very busy shopping period leading up until today. But again, they haven't seen the footfall through the doors that they expected. And when I asked them, why do you think this is? They said perhaps people have already, maybe they're more organised this year. A lot of people are already travelling away for Christmas. That could have had an impact. Or maybe everyone's focusing on their food shopping today. So maybe the supermarkets tell a different story. But there is a word of warning from the insurance group Admiral. They've done some research collating data from 10 years, and they found that car parks today, of all the whole year, you're 46% more likely to have an accident because people are grappling for the car spaces, they're stressed out about Christmas. So if any shoppers are going out and relying on a car park, beware today.
Thank you, Lisa. That's Lisa Hartle. She's out there in London. Right, should we head over to... Let's go to near the Dartford crossing. Let's have a chat with Theo Chukumba. He's live there now with the latest news on travel at Christmas. Theo, what can you tell me about what's been going on regarding roads and everything?
Yes, so depending on where you live in the country, it's been a flow of traffic and some delays and some closures, particularly on the M1 in the Luton and Milton Keynes area. There have been some closures into those cities and towns. But where I am at the moment on the M25, this is just near the Dartford crossing, and in most part of the day it was busy between around 11 and 1 p.m. but in between those times it's been relatively straightforward. There was an accident just where I am, about 50 meters from here this morning. The emergency services were quickly on the scene and they cleared that up. Elsewhere, over in Dover, there were some queues this morning. In the early hours of this morning, waits of around 90 minutes. That then went down to an hour, and then it increased again around mid-morning. But as of this afternoon, in the last hour or so, they're saying there's no waiting time. So presumably all of those people who had booked their tickets were able to get on smoothly, and it's just now working as it should do. But for those who are yet to travel, we're being told that 6 p.m. Is that time, 6 p.m. onwards is that time where you're able to travel with potentially less traffic. But of course, it is always worth checking your journey just before you leave.
All right, thank you so much, Theo. That's Theo Chagumba. He's out there near the Dartford crossing. Right, well, if you just tuned in, where have you been? Because it's 13 minutes after 3 o'clock. Now, a lot of us are celebrating, but of course, there's festive cheer all over the world. But it is important to remember that that doesn't mean that just because there are wars and things that people aren't, hopefully, at least trying to enjoy Christmas. So joining me now for more analysis on the pivotal situation in Israel. It's one of the biggest stories of the year. Let's speak to Mr. Farah Urigela. Uri, how are you? Of course, we're coming to Christmas. Hey. Talk to me about what's been going on.
OK, Nana, I'll tell you something that is quite shocking, because you're talking about Christmas. I want to say something that is really important that your viewers should know, and they will only hear it here on GB News. Listen, in 2 days, it will be Christmas, and you will hear about how the Palestinians have cancelled Christmas in Bethlehem. Yes, there are no celebrations this year, but there should be. I mean, do you know why? Because the Christian population in Israel is growing. Israel is the only place in the whole of the Middle East where Christians are not persecuted. Don't forget, Jesus was born in the land of Israel, and it's amazing that 2,000 years ago, Christianity is thriving in the land of Israel again. No Christmas in Bethlehem, and that's where Jesus Christ was born. Wow. Now, by the way, Nana, if you're wondering what this monstrous thing is behind me, that is a chair, and it weighs half a ton, and it's made out of 6,000 spoons. It's a throne. And when you come to Israel, I'm going to allow you to sit on this spoon throne. Is that a deal?
It's a deal, but isn't it a bit uncomfortable? Have you got the spoons?
No, not at all.
You just got the spoons.
Let me show you how. Do you remember the TV series? There we go. Oh, look at that. Very easy. You're actually, Nana, you're the first TV show that sees the chair. Now, this is very important also. This is another thing I want to say. As you know, Israel has found miles of tunnels under Gaza. Listen, they're big enough to drive cars through. Why isn't Hamas letting civilians use them as shelters? This is just one more evidence that Hamas does not care about what happens to ordinary Palestinians. And on this point, I want to tell you something even more shocking. A Hamas commander who was caught by Israel has admitted that Hamas uses children to carry explosives. Now, this commander confessed on camera, and you can Google it yourself, that Hamas puts bombs inside buckets, covers them with vegetables, and gives them to children to transport because they know that IDF will not shoot at children. This is shocking and terrible, and the world needs to know it.
Well, I mean, the world has just heard that here, and of course, we'll check all the sources. But I will take your word for that, because we have seen some frightening things. So, how are you keeping, though? Because of course, it's sad. Obviously, the war is awful, but Christmas is supposed to be a time where there is some level of celebration and festivities. Are the people of Israel trying to have some sort of, I don't know, some sort of enjoyment at this time?
look, we are getting used to the rockets flying in from Gaza. I mean, yes, just a couple of days ago, there was a huge barrage of rockets, I think 30 rockets. So the minute we hear the sirens, as I told you before, we take shelter. People who do not have shelters in their homes, they are told to go out and stand under the staircase because that's the safest place. But otherwise, today I had a tour in the museum. Right now I have a VIP tour to people from America. And life is going on, but it's war, and that's a fact. We cannot escape it. Sadly, children die in Palestine, Palestinians, Israeli soldiers die, and I hope that we destroy Hamas as soon as possible. This way, the war will end.
Are you feeling a bit more positive that some of the world leaders are getting together now and this time they stop short of insisting on a ceasefire, which would be pretty much surrender to Israel? And finally, somebody mentioned the hostages and said that they cannot even contemplate that without Hamas releasing hostages. They finally said that.
Yeah, I mean, the hostages, that's such a serious case because there's a group, you know, here, see this? There are lots of, believe it or not, American politicians, even British people wear this. This says, it says, "Come, our heart is with the hostages." And you didn't know this. You didn't know that I'll be wearing this. But basically, and I'll read it to you. Just 1 second. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, go for it.
It says, "Our heart is with our hostages in Gaza. Bring them home now." That's what we're after. We want Hamas to release the hostages.
Yeah, well, they need to. Uri, thank you so much. It's always good to talk to you. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful Christmas. That's Uri Geller. He's there live in Tel Aviv, giving us a bit more insight into what's happening where he is. If you just joined me 20 minutes after 3 o'clock, this is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, Political Spotlight. We'll be talking about gender identity in schools and mental health over this period. But up next, it's time for climate control. I'm asking if we can expect snow over the festive period. This is GB News.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, 24 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. It's time now for Climate Control, where we unpick the debate around the climate. And today, I'm asking if we can expect snow over the Christmas period, plus all the climate predictions for 2024. The Met Office has issued 54-hour snow and ice warnings, as Britain can expect a polar storm in the run-up to the big day. But will it really be a white Christmas? Well, I'm joined now by Jim Dale, meteorologist and social commentator. Yes, that is really him there. And also Paul Burgess, climate scientist. Yes, welcome. He's got a little elf on his shoulder. Yeah. So, well, we'll go to the elephant in the corner, but you are actually what are you, Jim?
I'm Dasher today.
You're Dasher. Where are you looking through? Are you looking through your nostrils?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I've come all the way from Greenland.
Yeah?
Top of Greenland today.
Yeah.
To give you a bit of snow story. Do you want to know what's going on?
Yeah, go on, Jim.
OK, so that message from the Met Office is wrong. That's the start of it. The only places that are likely to see snow on Christmas Day are going to be the northern highlands of Scotland. That's about where it'll be. Maybe a bit into the Grampians as well, but that's going to be about the limits of it. Other places in the world, Norway, Sweden, yeah, and that's about it. United States, Canada, which a lot of my friends are in, absolutely mild. Could be the mildest, warmest Christmas on record.
And you don't mean actual friends, you mean friends who look like you at
Friends
this time.
of Dasher, yeah.
Friends of Dasher, yeah. I can't take him seriously, but then I never can anyway with that on his head. So that's Jim Dale. Paul Burgess, is he right about some of these predictions? I mean, in your view, you're a climate
Well, I agree. I actually agree that it's going to be in the kingdoms, and that's it for UK. So I agree with that. But I'm here today really to represent the elves.
I see. There's an elf on your shoulder.
The elf on my shoulder, yeah. They got off the shelf just to get on the shoulder today. And they've got a campaign going for more CO2. And if I could bring up Elf Slide 1, here.
Let's take a look. This is the Elf Slide 1 we have here.
Elf Slide 1.
Take a look.
And
so they need...
There we are.
Yeah,
now, look, this is Christmas trees, and the left-hand side there is how much it grows today with the CO2 we've got, which is starving.
So where it's got the elf.
And where it's got the elf is what they want, more CO2. That's a doubling of CO2, roughly, and that's what you get, because these trees grew up with 4 times the CO2 we have today, so the elves want... And they live in trees most of the year. They only go to the North Pole, you know, with Father Christmas time. So they want that. And now we can go to the next Elf 2. There we've got what it was like here in the Thames in 1683, where you had 3 foot of ice, and it caused big problems. The elves' hats fell off, and it caused their heads to freeze, as you can see there in the corner. So, you know, they don't like that at all. But it started to warm then from...
Where are you getting this information from then?
Oh, that information is... Well, the information for 1683 is a famous painting. I will give quotes on my channel afterwards.
But tell me now, because you're on air on TV.
OK. This painting is a famous 1683 painting by a painter who painted it in 1683.
So that's what we got. So from that picture we perceive
can I just say that it's also recorded in history that 1830 these ice things stopped. The ice first stopped because it had warmed by 1830. So a warming of 160 years went on, and the elves wanted to say, you know, that is the case, and they didn't like it back then. They liked the warm.
So Jim, what are your thoughts on this?
Dasher's thoughts. Look, of course, trees like CO2. Yeah. But they also like water, and they also don't want a lack of water, which is the problem around the world, including my own area, where we're going into deserts, or you get the opposite, where you get deluges out of thin air. We've seen it many times this year, and we're being wiped out. We've lost half of the herd since 1995 because of the impacts of climate change. So 12.5 million caribou, non-existent now, and as I say, in half and going for extinction, much as many other species across the world due to climate changes. That's why it's not just about humans, it's about animal life and others.
As regards when he goes on about trees, because that's my subject here, and Christmas trees and things, what he's going on about is the fact is that the more CO2, the less water you need. Because the trees are starving, and all plants, that's why we've got record crops as we increase CO2, and they're starving. The little thing called stomata in them that breathes in the CO2, they have to have a lot of those. It lets a lot of moisture out, and that's why the Sahara is reducing in size. Far less water is needed with more CO2. Far less water is needed.
No, it's not. Have a look at Spain of late. It's going in that direction.
You're looking at weather, Jim, as always, you look at weather, not climate.
The Sahara is extending, much as the polar regions are also going the other way, diminishing. So you're getting it sort of the wrong way round. This is proven science. This is what we're seeing at this moment in time. This is why Dasher and co are having a real problem in the world at this moment in time.
Can I speak to that? Jim, the facts are there's a German study showing clearly how the Sahara is reducing in size because of the extra CO2 we're pumping in. There is no doubt that plants need less water. It's just a scientific fact when they've got more CO2. And that's why we pump CO2 into greenhouses to make them grow much better, right? But we can't afford to go up to the 1,500 in greenhouses. They normally do it to about twice what it is today because of the cost of doing it. So less water is needed right around the world if you have more CO2.
Final quick word to you, Jim Dale, to respond to that.
Water. Let me finish on the snow story, if I may.
Yeah, go on, quickly. Respond.
Can I? The name for somebody who doesn't like snow, who's kind of allergic to it, probably, in other words, it's called chianophobia.
Okay.
Chianophobia is, if you don't like snow, that's you out there. We all love it. And I'll tell you what, we might actually get some as we move towards the new year, extending down from the north. So prepare for that one, everybody. I'm going to love it.
Love it. All right, thank you so much. Jim Dale, what are you again?
Dasher.
Dasher. And also Paul Burgess, thank you very much for joining me. Interesting stuff. What do you think? It's just coming up to 31 minutes after 3 o'clock. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. On the way, we'll be discussing gender identities in schools, as well as people's mental health over the Christmas period with psychologist and social commentator Dr. Pam Spur. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
It's 3:30. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are rallying in central London. They're urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands. Traffic on Oxford Street was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to fashion shop Zara, while dozens of officers followed the march. Police say no arrests have been made. Today's been dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying last-minute Christmas gifts. The Great Christmas Getaway is well underway, with travellers facing long delays on rail and by road. The AA says it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. There's some good news for motorists travelling to France via the port of Dover. Earlier, there were 90-minute delays, but authorities are now saying there's no wait time ahead of border controls. The father of Kobe Makaria Dooley, who was stabbed in East London, has paid tribute to his son, saying the joy and laughter he brought to the world has been taken too soon. The 4-year-old was found with knife injuries at a home in Hackney on Wednesday. His mother, Keziah Makaraya, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. And you can get more on all those stories by visiting our website at gbnews.com. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Sophia. Jim Dale's just given me this. Apparently it's a wildflower bomb. I shall look forward to that. Probably blow up when I open it. 32 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome aboard. Listen, coming up, it's Political Spotlight. I'll be discussing gender identities in schools as well as people's mental health over the Christmas period. Psychologist and social commentator Dr. Pam Spur will be here live. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, thank you for being a big part of GB News.
We'd like to wish you and your loved ones a Christmas season full of comfort and joy.
As well as a peaceful
and prosperous New Year.
From our family
to yours.
We are proud to be your channel.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Merry Christmas.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 37 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time now for this week's Political Spotlight. And joining me to shine a light is Dr. Pam Spur, psychologist and social commentator. Pam, thank you so much for joining me. Now, there has been so much in the press recently with regard to gender identity and what's been going on in schools. Talk to us about, give people a sort of an update of what's been happening and where you stand with it.
OK, well, Gillian Keegan has been in charge of proposing new guidance for schools, because a number of parents were very upset to find that their children have been socially transitioned in schools behind their backs. Issues like that cropped up. She's had to tiptoe around the 2019 Relationship, Health and Sex Education Act, which requires schools to teach gender ideology as part of sex education. And it was pushed through by the trans sort of activist organisation Stonewall. And now it's spread like a jungle through our schools. And Gillian's been given like a little pair of scissors to snip away at some of the worst aspects of this. But it's left a number of troubling loopholes.
So this is something that happened in 2019, something that I don't personally necessarily agree with gender ideology, the unicorn or whatever it is they're talking about, the different levels of gender and all this. I believe there are just two genders, male and female, and if there is another one, it's because something has gone wrong, and that doesn't make it another gender. That just means that something has biologically gone wrong.
Well, that's the problem with this gender ideology, is it is anti-science. It is based on myths and fantasies that appeal to infantile and sometimes narcissistic minds who want to label themselves with these sort of multitude of potential genders that have been put out there by different gender ideologues. The problem is we might as well just teach Greek mythology as fact to children and say that children can identify as a centaur, you know, half human, half horse. That is the basis of this ideology. It is anti-science. Now, one of the main loopholes, unfortunately, is the fact that parents want to know what's going on with their children, particularly with big emotional and well-being issues. And what happened is she said that they are going to ask teachers to discuss this with parents if a pupil comes to them and says they're questioning their gender, apart from if the teacher thinks there's serious safeguarding issues in the child's home. Well, my point of view is, if there's serious safeguarding issues in a child's home, why have they not got children's services involved anyway? So that is just a red herring. So that loophole is there to kind of appease the gender ideologues. There's also another loophole where they're advising that your children over 8 should have single-sex toilets. And children over 11 should also have single changing rooms and showers. However, they're saying that if a child is transitioning, let's say a 13-year-old, socially transitioning, that if they're hugely distressed by being forced into their biological shower room, that they will be allowed to do that. So it's a big loophole again. If you don't want your 13-year-old daughter showering after sports with a 13-year-old boy. So unfortunately, Gillian Keegan, as I say, has had to tiptoe around this 2019 Act. And there are some very positive things, like single-sex schools do not have to take in a pupil who says they're transitioning to that sex. So a boy of, say, 13 can say, I'm going to be a girl and I want to go to that girls' school. So that's a good thing. The girls' schools can say no nowadays.
Seems absurd, though, that would even be a thing.
There are some positives like that coming out, but mainly, see, I'm a purist. I believe that gender ideology should not be taught in schools, or if it is taught in schools, then it's taught along with Greek mythology and things like that. You know, just that it's fantastical thinking. But it's ludicrous to have this there as sort of a science of gender, and it's incredibly misleading and damaging.
I think it's dangerous, frankly, because I have a little son, Ivory. He's quite a sensitive soul, so he would probably believe and buy into all of this if somebody was to present it to him in a certain way, and those who would wish to present this would be the sort of people that I probably wouldn't want to be teaching him, because, frankly, they would probably lean on the side of believing it. And I think the problem here is that we end up with very confused children. And I'm so concerned about it. Some people say, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, it is, because if somebody started telling me all this when I was younger, I may well have bought into it as well.
Yes, I was a tomboy until I was 12.
Me too, I was a tomboy.
And, you know, you and I, if we were now tomboys now, and some teacher who's bought into this ideology could say to us, well, maybe actually you identify as a boy. Why? You see, that's the thing. It's such regressive gender stereotypes in this ideology.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
And Gillian was trying to, you know, as I say, tweak with little scissors some of the worst aspects. But unfortunately, with the 2019 Act in place, unless that is overturned, and I'm not a political legal expert in that sense, I don't know how many MPs have to get on board and try and kind of repeal that act, we will be stuck with her doing, like, you know, sticky plasters on the worst bits.
They need to just cancel it and start again, really. I think it's... But I really like what you said about regressive gender stereotypes, because that's what it is, isn't it? Saying that you're a boy or you're a girl, against what? If you're going to discount biology, what is the line that you are using to determine where the crossover exists? Because and somebody else may well have a different line. Their line might be elsewhere. This is why this is a serious problem. But there is a simple, easy defining line between a man and a woman, and that is biology.
But we will be stuck with this until the 2019 Act. They do something about it. As I say, Stonewall, the trans activist organisation, pushed it through with the government, and that means it's like a jungle, as I said, spreading through schools. And she was just given this tiny pair of scissors to kind of snip up little bits to appease people like me and you. But it hasn't appeased me.
Well, why do you think, though, that this has become... because I would say the majority of people I speak to feel the same way I do and the same way you do. I don't understand how this has become such a powerful thing and why it is now so difficult to unpick it and bring it back to reality.
And I think there's a number of factors. It's such a great question. There is the power behind the medical side of it and the big pharma side, because when you start transing 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and even younger, they need to go on puberty blockers, and they will be on hormones for life. So big pharma are benefiting from this. Surgeons are benefiting from the top and bottom surgery. And what's shocking is you see online young children, young girls who have had healthy breasts taken off because they've bought into this. And their parents have thought this is the kind thing to do to allow my child to transition, when the kind thing to do, as the CAS review showed, is to explore what are the comorbidities. Because the fascinating thing about the CAS review was 70% of the children who were pushed to gender identity services had 5 or more comorbidities, along with them saying, I'm confused about my gender. They were depressed or anxious or had eating disorders or had neurodiversity or were autistic. All these things need exploring, because maybe that's what they're unhappy about, that they feel a bit different, but they're just a bit different as a boy or a girl. They're not a bit different that they need to change sex and gender,
But there will be surgeons and psychologists and people who are doing this genuinely, believing that they're being kind and helpful. So I think it's unfair to label everybody with a brush that is, big pharma, and there'll be people who think they're helping. But
absolutely, you're right.
I think the reality is that that person who has had all this thing done to them is going to have to deal with it. And I spoke to Brianna Ivy. She is a trans woman, but she now accepts that there's no way she could ever be a woman, and accepts that she's trans, and that, if she could turn back the clock, she would.
Yes, and that's the sad case. Detransitioners are coming out and speaking out much more, and right now in America, because of all the lawsuits they're bringing, like 13, 14, 15-year-olds who had healthy breast tissue removed or other surgical procedures, they are now, the insurance companies are looking very closely, and that is a good thing.
Yeah,
if the insurance companies don't want to pay those bills, then those children can't have these surgeries, and when they're older, if they want to have surgeries when they're an adult, I'm not stopping anyone.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
up to them.
Do what you like when you get to adulthood. Do your body is for you to do what you want, and of course it is. But as a child, you're unable to make that decision, because what do you know about what a man is and what a woman is in terms of the gender stereotype? Because it is exactly that. It's simply a stereotype. It's not. The reality is the biology. The stereotype is, and I don't believe that a man and a woman and gender. I think separating them is just nonsense. you know, because you can, I think, either get rid of the identity of it and just work with the reality.
Yeah, as I said, I'm a purist, and we need to take it root and branch out of the school system so that adults who want to do whatever they want to do, fine, as long as they don't come into women's spaces. We've had that chat before. But that children are safeguarded and protected from this confusion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I've got to say, Pam, it's such a pleasure to get time to actually talk about you for a decent period of time to discuss this as well. And very briefly, with regard to people over Christmas, there'll be some people psychologically worried about this because they're on their own or they think everyone else is having a great time.
There are lots of services. There are just Google loneliness online if you're going to be on your own. There are a lot of organizations that have things planned, local churches, wherever your place of worship is, you know, connecting with maybe colleagues you think might be lonely. Reach out and say hello. You know, just give them that, say, are you on your own this year? Maybe come around mine. Boxing Day, if not Christmas or something.
We love it. Dr. Pam Spur, thank you so much. We will talk again with regard to all of that. That is Dr. Pam Spur. She's a psychologist and social commentator. Right. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch. Let's see what you've been saying. James says, someone at my school, and this is, of course, we've been talking about the trans identity, and now someone at my school identified as a jelly, and our teacher said that we had to comply with it. What? For goodness sake. Alexander says, we must respect people's gender identities. Various medical institutions recognise them, and so we should follow the science. Yeah, but the science is actually biological gender, not a gender identity that's in your brain or your head that you think you are, or a narrative that you've created that you think a woman is. Because if you look at it, sometimes I think a lot of these people dress up in makeup and lipstick and that becomes that they're a woman, and that's not the reality. Angela says, supporting trans people isn't denying biology, it's endorsing it. The science backs up trans identities, as do doctors. Well, no one's saying that the trans identity and somebody can't identify as trans. What we're saying is that if you are a man, you're a biological man. If you're a woman, you're a biological woman. And the science backs that up. It can affirm a gender identity if someone wants to identify as it. But a trans can be an identity in itself. But you don't then become a woman if you're a trans woman. You're still a trans woman or a trans man, which makes you biologically a woman. But thank you for that. Ross says, I respect anyone's right to identify however they please, but it shouldn't be pushed onto children. And with that, I wholeheartedly concur. Absolutely. Identify as you like, but don't sell it to the kids as though the trans identity in terms of biology is a real identity. It's not a biological thing. A biological thing is a man and a woman. Well, listen, keep your messages coming at gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. On the way, my monologue. I mean, can you believe it? Asylum seekers are taking flights and going home, yes, back to where they came from for Christmas. Well, listen, keep those views coming. But up next, of course, lots to talk about. Stay tuned. Dougie Beattie is here with more on Christmas.
Check-in at Belfast International Airport. Destination, the Arctic Circle. And some very special passengers are on their way to meet Santa.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity for all the kids to be together, and hopefully they'll make lots of wee friends as well, you know, for a long time going forward.
Was there much sleep last night?
Absolutely none. None for the parents anyway. Afraid of sleeping in.
Is this your first time going to see Santa?
It is, yes. We were supposed to go last year, but the whole family took COVID a couple of days before we were due to go, so unfortunately we didn't get to go. We're extremely lucky that we've been asked to go this year as well.
We had a sick girl on Sunday, so we weren't sure we were going to make it at all, actually. So, yeah, very excited last night.
Are you looking forward to going to see Santa today?
Yes!
And where are you going?
North Pole.
The whole trip has to be completed in one day, and the plane has medical professionals on board, but also some skilled pilots that can land in sub-zero conditions.
How hard is it to fly a plane in those conditions and land it there?
It has its challenges, but we're well planned for it. It's a real privilege to be here and take the children up to Lapland, and I hope they have a fantastic time.
After spending time in the snow, the children catch up with Santa. And the big man hopes that those in the UK are safely tucked up and asleep on Christmas Eve.
Oh, I hope that they are sleeping. But many of them they have told me that they will not go and sleep on the Christmas Eve because they try to figure out how I come through the chimney. Yes, but normally they are sleeping, and then of course they are leaving nice cookies for me, mince pies, and then carrots for my Rudolph. Yes.
This trip is about memories and giving parents a well-earned rest.
It is difficult, but he's such a trooper. Anytime he's in hospital, it doesn't bother him at all, and he just gets on with everything. So he makes it easier on us as a family.
Well, it's very difficult every day, and even looking around us today, I'm sure there's a lot of people in similar positions, and that's what makes days like this that extra wee bit special, because making memories is the one of the most important things in our lives. And we're hoping that today will be one of the best memories that we'll ever make with that.
Dougie Beattie, GB News, Lapland.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Oh, listen, coming up, I'll be joined by my amazing panel, Lizzie Cundy and Danny Kelly, who's usually on a Sunday. But up next, it's my monologue on the migrant crisis. Can you believe migrants or asylum seekers are actually taking flights back to where they say they're fleeing from so they can see their families for Christmas? Unbelievable. Stay tuned, that's on the way next. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's remaining unsettled as we go through the rest of the weekend and in towards Christmas Day, but temperatures generally remaining above average for the time of year. This is due to high pressure bringing warm air up from the south, but low pressure sits up towards the northwest, bringing frontal systems across the UK, bringing plenty of wet and windy weather, particularly to western parts of Scotland through the rest of Saturday, and then later into Christmas Eve for western parts of Wales. We could see up to 80 millimetres of rain here. Generally remaining very cloudy elsewhere, although perhaps some clearer spells across parts of Scotland, but blustery showers pushing in, and generally remaining mild across the board into the start of Christmas Eve, perhaps even around 11 or 12 degrees across the south. So a cloudy, damp and mild start to Christmas Eve across much of England and Wales, with rain pushing its way eastwards as we go through the day. Blustery showers continue across parts of Scotland, these perhaps turning wintry over any high ground, and remaining very windy too. For Scotland and northern England, we could see gusts up to 70 miles an hour, perhaps bringing some tricky driving conditions. Another mild day, around 12 or 13 degrees, but those strong winds taking the notch off those temperatures. Christmas Day looks much of the same for the southern half of the UK. Heavy rain pushes in from the west as we go through into Christmas Day afternoon. There might be some brighter spells though for Scotland and northern England, but perhaps some wintry showers here too. Boxing Day looks a bit drier and brighter, but further wet and windy weather is on the way later in the week.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're late! Get up!
This Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, wake up with GB News.
For the finest festive start to your Christmas for you and the whole family.
Christmas breakfast on GB News, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day from 6 a.m.
I got you this.
Oh, good. OK, I got you a little something.
Oh, I'm sure it's nice.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's broadcast from columnist Lizzie Cundy. And also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. Yeah, he's not usually on a Saturday. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia.
Thank you, Nana. Good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 4. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are rallying in central London. They're urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands. Traffic on Oxford Street was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to fashion shop Zara while dozens of officers followed the march, which moved on to another area. Police say no arrests have been made. Today is being dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying last-minute Christmas gifts. The Great Christmas Getaway is well underway, with travellers facing delays on road and by rail. The AA says it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. Train passengers have been dealing with cancellations. More disruption is expected tomorrow, with London's King's Cross and Paddington stations closing for engineering works. Travel expert Simon Calder says people need to plan their journeys carefully.
So let's start at London Paddington, because we know that
all the trains are going to stop as from late tonight. There won't be any until the 28th of December. We are seeing train cancellations to Bristol, to Cardiff, and coming back in the opposite direction due to shortage of train crew. The north of England is going to be even worse. Northern Trains has said, do not travel on some of our key routes. We won't have any trains. We can't get the staff to run them.
The father of a 4-year-old boy who was stabbed in East London has paid tribute to his son. Kobe Makaraya Dooley was found with knife injuries at a home in Hackney on Wednesday and later died in hospital. His dad says he'll be dearly missed and that the joy and laughter he brought to the world was taken too soon. His mother, Keziah Makaraya, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. Bells rang across the Czech Republic and flags are flying at half-mast as the nation holds a day of mourning for the victims of a mass shooting. A service was held at St. Vitus Cathedral at the Prague Castle ahead of a minute of silence at Charles University, where a gunman killed 14 people. The country's president, along with members of the public, have been lighting candles and paying their respects at a memorial. Police are still working to establish a motive for the attack. The London mayor is calling on the government to help provide aid to Ukraine by sending vehicles that would ordinarily be scrapped under the ULEZ scheme. Sadiq Khan has asked the Transport Secretary to enable those living in the capital to donate their vehicles. Under the scrappage scheme, Londoners with cars that fall foul of emission standards can claim up to £2,000 when their non-compliant vehicles are scrapped. History has been made with Rebecca Welch, the first woman to ever referee a Premier League match. The 40-year-old is taking charge of the Fulham-Burnley game. She began refereeing in 2010 and in January became the first female to officiate a men's championship match. This is GB News across the UK, on TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now, let's return to Nana.
Thank you, Sophia. It's fast approaching 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. You couldn't make this up. Asylum seekers have been stopped at airports in the UK trying to go back to the country that they are apparently fleeing in order to see their relatives at Christmas. Now, I thought this was a joke when I first heard it, but no, sadly, this isn't some made-up narrative. It comes from Border Force Chief Phil Douglas, who was talking about how the Border Force carry out their outbound checks during Christmas time, and he just happened to mention that this was going on. Have a listen.
We do find a lot of people who, for example, have claimed asylum in this country and are heading back to their home country for holidays, which obviously isn't allowed.
So that was him talking on LBC. So these are people who have come to this country to seek sanctuary and claim asylum, right? But according to the definition of asylum seeker, an asylum seeker is a person who has left their country and is seeking protection from persecution and serious human rights violations in another country, but who hasn't yet been legally recognised as a refugee and is waiting to receive a decision on their asylum claim. So if they're claiming asylum according to the definition, how come, if they are genuine and truly fleeing persecution from their country, why are they trying to get back there on a plane for Christmas? It's hilarious. They're obviously not scared of flying, which begs the question as to why they didn't just take a plane in the first instance to get to the UK. Why come via a small boat and pay over the odds to take a trip via an overpriced, dangerous dinghy when a flight would be so much cheaper and considerably safer? Why indeed? Could it be something to do with the hotels, iPad, cash in hand, food and shelter? Look, I'm not saying that genuine asylum seekers shouldn't be helped, but the problem with all of this is that it makes things worse for genuine asylum seekers and creates a feeling of anger amongst British taxpayers like myself, working hard to make ends meet, while many disingenuous so-called asylum seekers save the money that they're given by the British taxpayer to pay for a flight to go back to the country that they're supposedly fleeing persecution from. I mean, it makes a mockery of the UK. They must be laughing at us. It's actually hilarious. So what will the bleeding heart liberals, the wokerati, the Gary Linekers make of this, eh? How can they defend it? Are they going to carry on opining for these people, picking on words like invasion and calling anyone who dares to point out the insincerity of many of those who come to our shores illegally after chucking away mobile phones and any form of ID? So how will these so-called asylum seekers return to the UK? Are they going to do the dinghy thing again? Let them leave. But they can't come back. But the dinghy is just a drop in the ocean, pardon the pun. Don't get me started on our over-generous legal migration rules. Rishi Sunak is also making a mess of that, softening his stance on income required to come here. The target he set will now be incremental, so the full requirement will be applied in 2025, a date when he may have already left office, as the likelihood of a general election before then is high, as is the likelihood of him losing. Soft-touch Britain, here we come. We'll buy into any story of woe. It's pathetic. Before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, as doctors' surgeries close for Christmas, are you sick of never being able to get hold of your GP? Does it make you feel conned paying national insurance? And, of course, this show is nothing without you and your views. As ever, we do the usual thing with our GB viewers. At 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time, and royal biographer Angela Levin will be live here in the studio, giving us the latest from behind the palace walls at Christmas. Stay tuned at 5. It's this week's difficult conversation. Lady Victoria Hervey will be live to discuss. That's on the way in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, hey, Danny boy. Welcome on a Saturday.
Moonlighting on a Saturday.
I know.
And where's the gold?
I didn't get the memo. I didn't get the memo, no. Do you know, my wife rang me on the way down. She goes, Dan, I've forgotten to get your cards for the panel for Lizzie and for Nana. And I said, don't worry, they won't get me anything. I walk in, within 10 seconds, Lizzie, here you are, Dan, here's your card.
And I've got something for you as well, Danny.
To Nana from Jim Dale.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want it. You can take it.
But it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Daddy. Good to see you.
And Lizzie Cundy, I'm going to start with you, Lizzie, as a regular. What do you think about this? I mean,
It's frightening. It's absolutely frightening what is going on. I'm glad they're going back on a plane and they can stay there, because what they are, they're not asylum seekers, they are criminals. And let's be honest about this. This is what's happening to this country. Look, we're only a small island. We are bursting at the seams. We can't do this anymore. Look, I mean, I've told you before, this beautiful hotel that's near me in the village is now full of military-aged men. The school next door is so worried. Kids can't walk past. Parents are really worried. You can't go out at night. It changes every aspect of our lives in our village. And this just sums it up, doesn't it, Nana?
Well,
it's
literally.
absolutely
I mean,
disgraceful.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Danny, I heard you laughing during that. It is hilarious.
Well, it's if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, because they're completely taking the mickey out of us, out of our generosity, out of our kind spirit as a nation. This is a very welcoming country. But when you have people who arrive here illegally and then, because it's Christmas, they want to spend... They're fleeing persecution. There is actually a clue in the definition. They are fleeing persecution. Now, according to that definition, they are now going towards persecution. What does that tell you? Well, exactly. They're not being persecuted. They're economic migrants. Something that Nigel Farage has been banging on about for years. Every time he says it, they throw the race card at him. But this just demonstrates, I don't know whether it's a minority, I don't know whether it's a majority, but this just proves his point, that they are economic migrants and they're not fleeing persecution.
Well, they're brazen. They're brazenly going to the airport, and they've got a ticket, and they're going to fly in a plane back to where it is they're supposed to be coming, that they're supposed to be fleeing from. Then they're going to come back afterwards to get their free hotel or whatever it is. I mean,
the sheer cheek of them, honestly, it is absolutely appalling. And I want to say to France, why are we giving this money to France? $500 million. What are they actually doing as well? Costing us $8.5 million a day to house migrants. And the barges still floating there, $20k a week. It's a disgrace.
Well, apparently the barge is more expensive than the hotel.
Just a couple of things. Also, they've obviously got a passport to jump on a plane. So, as I understand, a lot of these young men, they throw their ID away in the ocean. So at some point, they've gone and got themselves some identification back again. So that's an interesting aspect to it. But, Lizzie, I wasn't aware that you live in a beautiful village which has been changed because of these young men. Do you know how many young men? The hotel's full of them, brimming?
500, and it used to be a place where we'd have weddings, parties, events, and it was beautiful. It had a gym, everything gone.
You see, the Linekers of this world will throw the race card at you,
Well,
but it's not a race thing. It's the fact that there's lots of young men who have different belief systems, who treat different people differently as to how we treat people, and it's intimidating.
It is, and it's not fair on women going home at night. The security aspect of it as well. It changes every aspect of our life.
But that's not to say that there aren't people who are genuine, because there are genuine people fleeing asylum. And that's not to say that asylum seekers are all bad and awful. That's not the point. The point is that some of them who are claiming asylum are going back to the place they're saying they're fleeing persecution from, and that they're brazen enough to do it, which means that they're not taking us in this country seriously, and that sends a very worrying signal. But what I found quite funny was that the chief, officer there, was sort of slightly smirking as he was saying that. As
he was, because he probably can't believe it himself. I mean, it is an absolute joke.
They're taking the mickey. They are brazenly taking the mickey out of him. He's in charge of Border Force, or he's a representative of Border Force. He's in charge of keeping this country safe from illegal immigrants, keeping this country safe from potentially terrorists, and there they are, hopping on a plane, going back for Christmas. I'm guessing...
What a mockery of this government, though. I'm sorry, what a mockery it's making.
I'd love to know which countries they're going to.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Yeah, I'd love to get him on the show.
Maybe they're not going back to celebrate Christmas. Maybe it's a holiday season that they understand whether you're of a different faith or not.
No, he said that specifically, they're going back, and he had to tell them that that's not allowed. You know,
so they go back.
Of course it's not allowed.
Of course it's not.
I mean, how the cheek of them. I mean, I have to give it to them. I mean, blimey, you wouldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up.
No.
But this is a serious situation we have. We have a crisis. We need to secure our borders. Everything Nigel Farage says has happened.
Well.
And you know what? The whole world is laughing at us.
Well, to be fair, I think other parts of the world are also struggling with this situation as well. But I think others seem to deal with it in a more sort of, I don't know, a harder way, like Australia are quite serious about it. They don't mess around with this. If they caught you there, I mean, did you ever used to watch, what was it called? It was Border Force, actually, the show where you would see how they treat people who have broken the rules, and there is no two ways about it. You've broken the rules, that's that. Also, we've got an industry that is literally enjoying this. You've got lawyers. We had the Daily Mail uncovered a whole thing that was going on there, which was terrible. You've got hotels who are taking high prices and fees from the government because they get paid more. I don't think a lot of people want this to stop. There's a lot of people benefiting.
And there's 180 still waiting to be processed that have been sitting there for years. And it is disgusting. And I say, send them to the Falklands, South Georgia, UK territories, get them over there and get detention centres and send them back.
Don't get jealous. Your hair's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Can I say it?
Don't get
actually
envious. Although I did call. I bumped into Lizzie on the streets. I was watching the Everton game, and Lizzie parked in front of me. I said, Lizzie, and she gets out of the car. Looks fabulous. Your hair's amazing.
That's good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. Well, how are you? You all right at home? Listen, join in the discussion. You know the clue. GBviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at GBNews. It's just coming up to 15 minutes after 4 o'clock. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, it's Royal Roundup time with Angela Levin. She'll give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, lots of stuff. Next up, though, Worldview will cross live to Los Angeles and get the latest on what's happening. But up next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, do you feel conned by national insurance payments? Send me your thoughts, as ever, the usual way. Cast your vote now.
We're late. Get up!
This Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, wake up with GB News.
For the finest festive start to your Christmas for you and the whole family.
Christmas breakfast on GB News, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day from 6 a.m.
I got you this.
Oh, good. OK, I got you a little something.
Oh, I'm sure it's nice.
Hello, thank you for being a big part of GB News.
We'd like to wish you and your loved ones a Christmas season full of comfort and joy.
As well as a peaceful
and prosperous New Year.
From our family
to yours.
We are proud to be your channel.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Merry Christmas.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's fast approaching 21 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. Don't forget as well, you can stream the show live on YouTube or download the GB News app. It's completely free. You can take us everywhere you go. But it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you feel conned paying national insurance? Now, of course, national insurance helps to pay for some state benefits at times when individuals need help. For example, when unemployed, ill, in retirement or bereavement. But is national insurance really worth paying for when GPs have told patients not to go to the doctor until the New Year's, as routine appointments with family doctors are off the table? Surgeries have said that they only prioritise urgent cases due to striking doctors, and the first round of strikes ends at 7 a.m. on Saturday before the longest strikes in NHS history begin on January the 3rd, lasting 6 consecutive days. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you feel conned paying national insurance? After all, a lot of that comes out of it. Right, so joining me now is political commentator Matthew Stadler and also Deputy Editor of Conservative Home, Henry Hell. I'm going to start with you. Henry, what's your thoughts?
I think, setting aside the question of how much tax you pay, the structure of national insurance is almost from the off designed to deceive, right? Like right from the beginning, the idea is it gives the voters the impression that they're paying something specific into a specific fund. You talk to people now who are, claiming their pensions, and they will say, "I've paid in all my life," and many of them have the idea that actually their national insurance contributions are going into a specific pot, and that simply, as you say, isn't the case. And so what happens is that national insurance, one, allows politicians to disguise the headline rate of income tax. Two, creates a false impression that people are paying for specific benefits that they're actually not. The one time I've tried to get something out of the NHS in the last 10 years, the NHS refused to pay for it. And then, as well as all of that, it basically means that it's another way that politicians can heap an extra tax on working age people. So when they were thinking about doing the social care levy was in addition to national insurance. Why was that important? Because only people of working age pay for it. So I want to scrap it for that reason and roll it into income tax.
Matthew Statler.
I don't regret a single penny I've ever paid in either income tax or national insurance, Nana. I'm proud to contribute to our National Health Service and to social care. What I would say is we need to have a big conversation about the state of those two British institutions, because after 13 and a half years of largely Tory rule with Conservative prime ministers in number 10, the NHS is clearly not working with astonishingly high waiting lists. Social care is clearly not working, and that's having a massive knock-on effect on the NHS. Boris Johnson stood on the steps of number 10 Downing Street, didn't he? He told us he was going to fix that. That hasn't happened. So there is a crisis here. It needs to be dealt with. I think the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is right to say that we should treat the NHS as a service, not a shrine. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be free at the point of delivery. Good luck to anyone who thinks they can afford their own healthcare when those bills come through. But it does mean we have to look very seriously at what's going wrong. And whether you think it's that it hasn't been funded enough by the Tories or it's poorly managed, whether it's a mixture of those two things, it has happened under the Conservatives' watch.
Yeah, but you say that, but let's be honest about where all of this sort of mess with the NHS really began. I mean, it began under Tony Blair. He's the one that started messing about with it. And that's how, in fact, it probably even started before that. But I can remember very clearly Tony Blair had his hand in the NHS. I mean, am I wrong, Henry?
I mean, it was New Labour that oversaw the GP renegotiation, the absolutely extraordinarily bad GP contract negotiation. But the fundamental problem with the NHS isn't something to do with either specific party. It's the fact that the NHS is theoretically an unlimited service, and therefore the only way that you actually deal with that and ration service is by rationing in queues. Now, if national insurance, which is what we're actually talking about, was really a ring-fenced fund, I actually think that would be much more defensible. If it was actually a tax that you paid that specifically went to the NHS, like water charging, for example, the fact that we now pay for water bills means that an awful lot more money, not nearly enough, but an awful lot more money has gone into water infrastructure than was the case when water was completely nationalised. But as it is, national insurance as a tax, notwithstanding the level of tax we pay, not disputing that with the other speaker, is a deceitful tax. It is pretending to be a ring-fenced fund for public services. It is pretending to be a ring-fenced fund for your pension, and it is not. It is simply, in truth, an extra rate of income tax, but it allows politicians to pretend taxes are lower. It allows them to pretend that you're making a direct contribution to the NHS, when in fact voters are doing neither of those things.
Because the thing is, I think a lot of people think that it is mainly funding the NHS, but it's actually a supplementary bit of funding towards it. And I think a lot of people are looking at this thinking this is... I mean, Matthew, you're saying you don't regret paying any of that tax, but they appear to be spending it very badly, even in light of the way it's been spent.
Rejigging national insurance and income tax and messing around with that it's like playing with the chairs on the Titanic. There is massive underinvestment when you look at rampant inflation in our National Health Service. If you compare the approval ratings for our healthcare system under New Labour, and I'm no particular fan of Tony Blair, he made a lot of mistakes in his time in office, not least, of course, Iraq. But if you compare approval ratings under New Labour to where we are now after 13 years of Tory rule, I would pretty much almost bet my house that there is a massive gulf. People are really realizing now that it isn't working, a national health care service, and that is not, Nana, because of doctors, although I don't support doctors striking. It is not because they're not working hard. It's not because they're not talented. It's not because of nurses. Morale is at an all-time low, I think. They're doing their best, although they're human beings and they sometimes get it wrong. It is because of the way it is funded and possibly because of the way it is managed. That's why I go back to what Wes Streeting says. He's going to be the Labour Health Secretary, and it is refreshing to hear someone from Labour saying, we shouldn't be treating the NHS as a shrine. And the reason that is refreshing is because it means that he is going to take it seriously. He's not going to say we're not going to do anything to it because it's holy. It does need some changes, clearly, because it's not working, but it also needs money. And if we're not as a nation...
It doesn't need money.
If we're not prepared to pay for our public services as a nation, we won't get decent public services, however well it's managed.
But it's not managed well, and the thing is, I'm of the opinion that it doesn't need more money. I think it needs better organisation, because the more money goes into it, it's like chucking money down a black hole. That's what I'm seeing. What's the evidence? The evidence is, have you seen how much they spend on procurement of things that they could get much more cheaply if they were to use economies of scale? There's so many examples of where they've wasted billions on nonsense. So those are the examples, and they're all there for everyone to see. Coming back to you, though, what are your thoughts, Henry?
We've moved off the subject of national insurance, but I've covered that. So on the NHS is a funding model, right? The NHS, in large part, is a funding model. It's about the idea that everything is paid for through taxation. And that model has limits, right? In other systems, in European systems, they do deliver a higher percentage of GDP on care than we do in the UK. But they do that because people who can afford it pay for, in part, towards their own care through actual, real social insurance systems rather than the fake national insurance one that we have. The problem with the NHS is taxes are already incredibly high historically. This isn't like the 90s when the Tories were actually keeping taxes low. Taxes are already very high. There's limited capacity to raise more of it. And again, because we have no formal mechanism for limiting how much money care people get on the NHS, the answer is we limit care with queues. And we limit care with waiting lists. That's how the NHS is structured and how it works. So yes, you can put more money into it. But again, why do we have a winter crisis every year? Because the NHS is run very efficiently. There's very little slack in the system. But are you prepared to pay for slack? Are you prepared to pay extra in order to have empty beds and extra capacity 8-9 months of the year? That's the challenge posed by our model.
Well, listen, thank you for your thoughts. That's Henry Hill. He's the Deputy Editor of Conservative Home, and also political commentator Matthew Stadman. Thank you so much. Right, well, let's have a quick look at what you've been saying. Thomas says it's time to privatise the NHS. It's proven itself not to work time and time again. Let the market do what it does best, Simon says. The Tories have destroyed the NHS, underfunding it. No, it's got too much money, and now they want to sell it off to their mates. No, I think some of us just want to be able to see a GP or a doctor without all this striking. I mean, you've seen how it's going. King says, I think there are some great parts of the NHS, like the staff, who were amazing during the pandemic, but it certainly needs reform. Well, keep your thoughts coming to GBviews at gbnews.com. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News Live on TV, online, and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, do you feel conned paying national insurance? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Lizzie Cundy and Danny Kelly. Still to come, this week's difficult conversation. But first, let's get your latest news with Sophia.
Thank you, Nana. It's 4:30. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are rallying in central London.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
They're urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands. Traffic on Oxford Street was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to the fashion shop Zara, while dozens of officers followed the march, which moved on to another area. Police say no arrests have been made. Today's been dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying last-minute Christmas gifts. The Great Christmas Getaway is well underway, with travellers facing delays on rail and by road. The AA says it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. Train passengers have been dealing with cancellations. More disruption is expected tomorrow, with London's King's Cross and Paddington stations closing for engineering works. And the father of Kobe Makaria Dooley, who was stabbed in East London, has paid tribute to his son, saying the joy and laughter he brought to the world was taken too soon. The 4-year-old was found with knife injuries at a home in Hackney on Wednesday. His mother, Keziah Makaria, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. And you can get more on all those stories by visiting our website at gbnews.com. Now it's...
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back. It's 35 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? It's all right. We've still got at least an hour and a half left. It's time now for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you feel conned? paying national insurance. I mean, national insurance helps to pay for some of the state benefits at times when individuals need help, for example, when unemployed, if you're ill or in retirement or bereavement. So, you know, it covers a lot of the NHS payments as well. But is the national insurance really worth paying for when GPs have told patients not to go to the doctor until the New Year's, as routine appointments with family doctors are off the table? Surgeries have said they can only prioritise urgent cases due to striking doctors. The first round of strikes ends at 7 a.m. on Saturday, before the longest strikes in National Health Service history, which begin on January the 3rd. They last 6 consecutive days. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you feel conned paying national insurance? After all, it is the tax that also funds parts of the NHS. Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined now by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, I'm going to start with you.
Do I feel conned? I don't feel conned. One thing that irritates me is when critics of this government, and we heard it with the fascinating debate, just say 13 years. It's just a lazy cliche. 13 years of Tory government. First of all, it wasn't 13 years. There was a coalition initially with the Lib Dems. And by implication, what that means is that day one of Cameron getting the keys to Downing Street, everything broke. I mean, it's just so factually incorrect. You know, it's demonstrably untrue. So over the 13 years, things, in Matthew's opinion, have deteriorated. And that's a great opinion, but there was no evidence forthcoming. The evidence, he could say, well, look at the waiting times and look at the operations missed. But there was nothing factual to say, this is why it's failed, and this is how we can fix it, and this is what Labour are going to do. So it's all just hypothesis and thoughts in the air. I don't feel conned because I'm in a fortunate financial position to be able to pay my national insurance stamp. I'm also in a financial position to have private healthcare. And I don't say this in a way of boasting, because I don't mean to boast. But I would feel conned if I was working all the hours that God sends, earning 23, 24 grand, which is, I think, the living wage over 12 months, and not being able to get decent healthcare. I would feel conned by that.
Well, it's 33,000, I think, is the average wage in this country. So if you're earning that, you're paying national insurance, you're probably not paying private medical cover. No. Then you're getting sick, and then you have to wait for how long to see a GP? I mean, I would feel completely conned. Lizzie?
I feel completely conned. Yeah. And do you know what's so sad? My mother, who's 88, was trying to get a doctor's appointment because she's hurt her knee. Can't get in, you know. So everyone, just don't get ill. Don't get ill, you know, because you won't get seen. And I'm sorry, I don't know if you know, national insurance will raise up to £172.3 billion. And where is this money going? I want to know what the government is actually doing and how it is actually spending. Because I'm sorry, our NHS is a complete shambles.
It's terrible.
And where the money is going is wasted. The middle management, the waiting lists, they're getting longer. I mean, what is really going on? It needs a total reboot. I'm sorry, it does.
Well, it is actually terrible, because I went to see my doctor. I had a little rash on my neck, and I managed to get like a video appointment that you do. So I got a video appointment. They have a triage thing that's online. I actually had to call them up to say, how do I use this computer thing? Because it didn't really make any sense. They told me, so I did it. I got the video call, which is quite good. I thought, oh, this is really good. And they gave me some cream that didn't work. It was the wrong thing anyway. So I then tried to get back in touch, went on the triage thing. They said, oh, all the spaces for triage. I just want a referral to my private cover. We happen to have some via the company, so, you know. So I wanted to just get a referral so I could go, but you have to go through your GP. So I said, well, you gave me the wrong stuff, so now I want to see a specialist. You know, so can you just fill in the form and just send me on my way? And I said, I'm fed up with this. I wrote that there. OK, so they didn't get back to me at all. And then after about 4 days, they then sent me a thing saying, oh, you've filled in the wrong form on the website. And that was on the Friday afternoon. I thought to myself, because I'd put in there, I'm fed up of this, I think that's why. But in that time, I'd actually paid to see a GP somewhere to get the referral.
You see, that makes me livid. It makes me livid. And someone like my mother that has worked hard all her life and paid her, you know, income tax, national insurance, you know, and can't get seen. I think it's disgusting. And don't forget, we've got approximately 8 million from the ages of 16 to 64 that are economically inactive.
Yeah.
And aren't actually...
I don't think there's a surplus of funds. You know, again, critics of the government almost leave you with the impression that there's a surplus of funds, but they're just not prioritising it towards the NHS. I don't think that I think this government is fairly skint. You know, the NHS is overwhelmed with people. You know, there's a lot more people that have come into this country, and I don't want to just highlight and target a particular group. But if we face reality, there are more people now in this country than maybe we planned for 10 years ago. And I'm in business, and you have to budget 4 or 5 years ahead. Well, my point is that if the NHS is overwhelmed, that's because there are too many people who are ill for too few doctors.
Oh, but that's... You say that, but then when you go to see someone at the NHS and they say, oh, well, no, we can't do it now, but if you just go down the corridor and pay a couple of grand or whatever it is, or if you've got private, we can do it then for you.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, but you said there's too many people, though. I think
too many people who can't afford to go private, and if too many people who can't afford to have your knee done like your beautiful 88-year-old mother, then they have to go on this long waiting list. Why is the waiting list so long? It's because there's too many people.
No, there's not too many people, though. It's not, though. Because if that person was prepared to pay for it, is my point, then they go straight up to the front of the queue. So that doesn't mean there's too many people. It means that
but they don't go to the front of the NHS queue. They go to the front of a private queue.
Yes, but again, there aren't too many people because they sometimes in the same hospital will have a wing of that hospital, which is the private wing, where you will either, if you're going private, you can go straight to that wing and there's somebody there.
But that's a private wing, not an NHS.
Yeah, but
it may be
it's part of the NHS. No. It's part of the NHS, though. There are parts of the NHS that have private areas, private wings, and that means that there are spaces if you're prepared to pay.
If you're prepared to pay. That's the point.
Well, we agree with each other.
Yeah,
no, we don't agree with each other because you said there's too many people. I said there's not too many people.
But we've got net migration that is over 700,000.
But if the waiting lists are so long, there has to be too many people.
No.
That is the only answer.
No,
is
but
either too few
more
people.
Or less, if you want to pay for it, you'll get seen. But you've got to
if you're prepared to pay for it, you're going to get seen.
No, I agree. But
so that doesn't mean there's too many people.
On that side of the hospital wing,
but
the NHS side, there are too many people and too few doctors. On that private side, you've got wealthier people, and you've got doctors who can see people immediately. Ironically, doctors on the private side work on that side of the wing as well.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the point. That's the point I'm making.
And if
I think we agree with each other. I think we do.
I don't agree. I never agree.
We agree with each other.
You know, you can be ill, but you just have to be, have some money in your pocket.
Well, you can
basically.
and not today, tomorrow, the next day, or the next day. Just if you could schedule your illness after the 6-day strike, that'll be fine.
Don't get ill.
They'll still take the money from your national insurance to fund all this, by the way. But this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Where should we head over to? I wonder if the map's here.
Yes.
There's no map.
No map.
No map.
Bristol.
Let's go over to Bristol. Let's have a chat with Lee Harris. Lee! Lee Harris Christmas. Father Christmas. That was rubbish. Lee, the national insurance, do you think that just feel a bit conned paying for it?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was being said. It seems the more that we pay, the worse things get, Nana. Especially when you look at, the current poor state of the NHS, some of which you've covered really well. Like, if I want, there are about 7.7 million people, on waiting lists, and that they are being made worse by the strikes. If you want a GP appointment or a non-urgent operation, you've got to wait weeks, if not months, to get seen. For me, it's just got to the point where you expect the NHS to not be there when you need it, which is not great. But NHS chiefs have said just in the last few days that the latest walkout, which they've just finished, and the upcoming unprecedented 6-day junior doctors strike will directly affect patient safety. It's going to make waiting lists worse and could easily push the NHS into a tipping point over the next few weeks. I know we hear that every Christmas, but they're saying that again. But I agree with you, Nana. This poor service clearly has very, very little to do with funding. The NHS budget has risen more rapidly since we voted to leave the EU. We're spending 20.5 billion more on the NHS in 2023-24. That's more than 394 million a week by 2024. But we're still getting the second worst in terms of outcomes and saving lives out of 19 countries in the league table. And I think a lot of this has come because there is a huge increase in demand. In 2022, we hit a record net high migration figure of 745,000. That's a city the size of Birmingham added to the population in a very short space of time. And the healthcare system is struggling to cope. We need more hospitals, more GP surgeries, houses. The numbers are pretty huge and we can't keep up with demand. I say, just to finish on this, that we should look at places like Germany, where the German system is better staffed and stocked than the UK relative to the population. It's still mostly free at the point of use, and it has much better results for patients. We need a serious rethink in this country. Our system is definitely broken.
I wonder if any of the politicians would actually be brave enough to do it and stop the lip service, because a lot of them are giving it that, and actually do something about it. And I'm glad GBNews are here, because I think before we started really talking about it, most people were carrying on with the sacred cow narrative. But
very true.
Lee Harris, thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
He's been fabulous, Lee Harris.
He's great.
He's good, isn't he, Lee?
Yeah, we
a great British voice. We lovely. He's very, very good. Well, we do. We lovely. What about you, Daddy?
It seems he agreed with me. Overwhelmed.
And he agreed with me too.
Too many people.
Too many people.
Well, listen, stay tuned. 46 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio on the way. And 11 will be live to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. But first, let's get the weather.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's remaining unsettled as we go through the rest of the weekend and in towards Christmas Day, but temperatures generally remaining above average for the time of year. This is due to high pressure bringing warm air up from the south, but low pressure sits up towards the northwest, bringing frontal systems across the UK, bringing plenty of wet and windy weather, particularly to western parts of Scotland through the rest of Saturday, and then later into Christmas Eve for western parts of Wales. We could see up to 80 millimetres of rain here. Generally remaining very cloudy elsewhere, although perhaps some clearer spells across parts of Scotland, but blustery showers pushing in, and generally remaining mild across the board into the start of Christmas Eve, perhaps even around 11 or 12 degrees across the south. So a cloudy, damp and mild start to Christmas Eve across much of England and Wales, with rain pushing its way eastwards as we go through the day. Blustery showers continue across parts of Scotland, these perhaps turning wintry over any high ground, and remaining very windy too. For Scotland and northern England, we could see gusts up to 70 miles an hour, perhaps bringing some tricky driving conditions. Another mild day, around 12 or 13 degrees, but those strong winds taking the notch off those temperatures. Christmas Day looks much of the same for the southern half of the UK. Heavy rain pushes in from the west as we go through into Christmas Day afternoon. There might be some brighter spells though for Scotland and northern England, but perhaps some wintry showers here too. Boxing Day looks a bit drier and brighter, but further wet and windy weather is on the way later in the week.
Honestly, think rain. I was hoping for snow. This is GB News, live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up in the next hour, it's time for the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? But next up, it's our weekly Royal Roundup with royal biographer Angela Levin.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6 is Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. Every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown. Who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin? Angela.
Hello.
You look so bright.
Well, it's been so dark and grey that it cheers me up.
That's one very bright red you've got on, but it looks good.
Thank you.
So talk to me about the royals then, because I was imagining that nearer Christmas this gets a bit quieter for them, but not so.
Not yet. Not yet. Once that's over Christmas, then it gets quieter. But what's interesting is Sandringham. They're all off to Sandringham, but it's going to be different, subtly different from when the Queen was there. One, I'm sure these girls are going to be very, very pleased. They don't have to change 7 times on Christmas Day. They can wear their dresses all the time. Camilla doesn't expect that to happen. She's very much sort of used to dinner parties. And she's bringing this year her children and her 5 grandchildren and her sister who lost her husband a year or so ago. And it's going to be much more informal. They don't have to, they can play cards and games and all that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be a much more relaxed, and particularly that Harry and Meghan aren't coming.
Oh,
I think it would have been very stressful for everyone. They've gone to Costa Rica with their children, so they will have nice warm weather, have a lovely relaxing time, but they won't actually have to disturb the royal family where they are.
So are they all going then to Sandringham? Who's on the invite list?
Yes, well, it'll be, you know, the William and Catherine and the 3 children go, and it will be well, all the children and the grandchildren will come along. It's what some people have felt a bit angry is that they'll have to give up their rooms for Camilla's children and grandchildren, staff mainly. But actually, I think it's big enough and it'll be fine. And they'll all go to church. They swap presents in the evening. And what I don't know is whether the Queen liked everyone to give each other silly things because she didn't want people spending vast amounts of money. But now they can spend anything they like, I think. So I don't think they will, though, because it's, you know, they've got most things that they want. And they have that on Christmas Eve, and then they go to church in the morning. Now, Andrew is coming, Prince Andrew is coming, and his ex-wife.
That's Fergie. Yeah.
Fergie.
Yep.
She was invited last year by Camilla, and she hadn't been for over 20 years because the Duke of Edinburgh couldn't stand her and refused to let her to come. So that's been changed. But I don't think, because of all that's going on with problems that Andrew's got, that he will be seen going to church. I don't think they want anybody shouting at him or anything like that. So I expect he'll stay out of sight and maybe out of out of mind. So I think it'll be very nice for them to relax and to become a family again and be with people who they support and they can support. But William, of course, is facing a very difficult time with Epstein.
Of course, yes.
And that can all blow up because on the 1st of January or just around there, the judge is releasing 770 names of people who got involved with Epstein. And we'll have to see that Prince Andrew is there. And who else is there?
But you said William. Did you mean Andrew when you said...
Andrew,
sorry. No, that was earlier because you said... Yeah, so I was thinking, William, because William's nothing to do with it.
No, William's got absolutely nothing to do with it. And I think Andrew has been trying to get back to do something to help with all these engagements that are needed to be done. And they don't do so many now. They're more focused on big things rather than lots of little ones. And King Charles has said very firmly, no, not at all. And I think this is quite good because he didn't know that this was going to come up. And it's going to sort of roll on and on and on. And another woman has accused Prince Andrew of touching her breasts things like that. So it's never ended. So although he paid out his 12 million, he said he didn't know her, he didn't say that he was guilty or anything like that. This is going to roll on and on for quite a long time. The one thing that might be quite good is that Omid
Scabies
is going to live in Los Angeles now. He doesn't mind that he's burnt all his closeness with the royal family, and he's going to write about, making up stories. And I think actually he's done that now quite a lot anyway.
He's going to write about making up stories?
He's going to write stories, made-up stories. He wants to write that. He's not going to write about the royals anymore.
Well, that's what he's been doing anyway.
Well, that's what I was saying. He's been doing that for quite a long time now.
What's new?
So he'll be doing that and out the way, because the royals have actually not allowed him to go on the royal rota, and quite understandably they don't want him around. And so that's what's going to happen. He's going to disappear, but he might make another book up. You don't know.
His book bombed, though, didn't it? It did not do well at all.
It's done very badly.
Badly, yeah.
It's I think it's 9,000 here.
9,000?
Yeah. Well, it's quite good for ordinary people. I'm delighted when my books sell that. But, you know, the last year, the Finding Freedom, he got, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands, and that was very successful. But this one is very much like... you know, it's like what's already been done in The Spare that Harry's done. A lot of it is not copied, but just slightly manoeuvred. And very little of it is new or anything like that. But he's used the book to be as nasty as possible about all the royals. And so they're not going to let him get anywhere near anything.
He's burnt his bridges completely.
Yes. So that's it with him. And that's it. But I think that... the space they will have in Sandringham, they all love it. And although last year it was so near the Queen's death that it was quite quiet and everyone was sad and missing her very much. But this year they can be a bit more jolly and happy. And Princess Anne will, I'm sure, be there. And she has said that she's very, very proud of Camilla. She didn't like her at all at the beginning, and now she said she's being a wonderful queen and a support to King Charles, that she didn't know anything about it, but that's what she is. That's a very nice thing to remember.
Isn't it lovely? Angela Levin, always a pleasure. Lovely to talk to you again. Very briefly, what time is the King's speech? There'll be a King's speech.
3 p.m. on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day, the same time every year.
They all have to watch it after lunch.
Absolutely. Right, Angela Levin, thank you so much. There's, of course, royal biographer Angela Levin. Right, we'll stay tuned. Loads more still to come in the next hour. Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. On the way, my difficult conversation, Lady Victoria Hervey will be live in the studio. We'll catch up with all things royal with her. But then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? But first, let's get your latest news with Sophia.
Thank you, Nana. Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are rallying in central London.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
They're urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands. Traffic on Oxford Street was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to fashion shop Zara, while dozens of officers followed the march, which moved on to another area. Police say no arrests have been made. Today's been dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying last-minute Christmas gifts. The Great Christmas Getaway is well underway, with travellers facing delays on rail and by road. The AA says it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. Train passengers have been dealing with cancellations. More disruption is expected tomorrow, with London's King's Cross and Paddington stations closing for engineering works. Travel expert Simon Calder says people need to plan their journeys carefully.
So let's start at London Paddington, because we know that all the trains are going to stop as from late tonight. There won't be any until the 28th of December. We are seeing train cancellations to Bristol, to Cardiff, and coming back in the opposite direction due to shortage of train crew. The north of England is going to be even worse. Northern Trains has said, do not travel on some of our key routes. We won't have any trains. We can't get the staff to run them.
The father of a 4-year-old boy who was stabbed in East London has paid tribute to his son. Kobe Makaraya Dooley was found with knife injuries at a home in Hackney on Wednesday and later died in hospital. His dad says he'll be dearly missed and that the joy and laughter he brought to the world was taken too soon. His mother, Keziah Makaraya, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. Bells rang across the Czech Republic and flags are flying at half-mast as the nation holds a day of mourning for the victims of a mass shooting. A service was held at St. Vitus Cathedral at the Prague Castle ahead of a minute of silence at Charles University, where a gunman killed 14 people. The country's president, along with members of the public, have been lighting candles and paying their respects at a memorial. Police are still working to establish a motive for the attack. And police are investigating the alleged theft of a Banksy artwork in southeast London. The piece, a stop sign covered with 3 aircrafts that look like military drones, was discovered at an intersection in Peckham yesterday. Less than an hour after the artist confirmed the installation was genuine, witnesses saw the installation being removed by a man with bolt cutters. The Met Police is appealing for information on the incident. And history has been made with Rebecca Welch becoming the first woman to referee a Premier League match. The 40-year-old took charge of the Fulham-Burnley game, which Burnley won 2-0. She began refereeing in 2010 and in January became the first female to officiate a men's championship match. This is GB News across the UK, on TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. And now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's coming up to 5 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's Lizzie Cundy and also Danny Kelly. Well, still to come, my difficult conversation today is with aristocrat and socialite lady Victoria Hervey. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? And we'll be holding our Christmas-themed quiz. You don't want to miss that. As ever, get in touch. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. Right, so at this time we always have a difficult conversation. So joining me is my next guest, English model, socialite, aristocrat and former it girl. She is the daughter of the 6th Marquess of Bristol, half-sister of the 7th Marquess and sister of the 8th Marquess. I don't know how she keeps up with that. Of course, there's got to be Lady Victoria Hervey. Lady Victoria, thank you so much for joining me.
Wow, that was quite an introduction.
Yeah, I didn't realise all that 7, 8, 9 or whatever business going on. How does that work out? How does that work out?
It's a lot of history.
What's it like being, Lady Victoria Hervey?
I'm lady, I'm the eldest of the current, so I actually would have been the Marquess if I was a boy, but,
That's annoying.
The girls are second best.
That's so wrong. They need to change the law on that. That's not still the way it is. Now, of course, one of the big topics, we were talking to Angela about the royals, and one of the big topics, I know you are an acquaintance of Andrew, so talk to me about where we are with everything, because there was something in the papers the other day about it.
There's been a lot of things going on. I think the media's been getting, super excited because, there's these, 170 names or 200 names supposed to be coming out, but there's 2 Jane Does that are desperately...
So these names are coming out for...
No, these aren't anything. I literally think these names that are supposed to be coming out are just... It's a complete distraction. They're just anyone that is friends of a big businessman, they had no idea what was going on.
So this is the Jeffrey Epstein thing?
Yeah,
so there's
the Jeffrey Epstein names. I think it's all, sorry to say, but bullshit. These people...
Apologies for the language.
Apologies for the language. But anyway, so what is really interesting is there are 2 Jane Does that are trying to stay out of it.
Well, listen, we can't talk... I tell you, we've got to stop there, because we don't know these.
No, we do. I actually, if I could have given it to you to put up on the screen, but Boyd Schiller is actually representing...
We have to be careful.
No, of course.
Talking about this,
but Jane Doe 107 is being represented by Sigrid. I think... Maybe they parted ways today, but I don't know.
Well, listen, Victoria, we can't talk too much, give too much detail of that.
Anyway...
It sounds very juicy and interesting gossip.
It is going to be juicy, and we'll see what happens, right? But I think the press is going off on this sort of haywire that, just because a name is related, had a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, it doesn't make them some sort of child, did anything.
Well, yeah.
Right?
We do
Don't you think that's ridiculous?
Well, do you know what? Obviously, their legal proceedings will go through and we'll find out exactly what
but
is
it's
what.
Crazy.
But you do have to be careful these days. I mean, you can't...
We have to be careful if suddenly someone wants to pose. It must happen to you as well, right? You're at a party or something and someone's like, oh, can we do a quick selfie? Well, what happens? That person could end up being some mass murderer in 10 years' time, and suddenly we're associated with them.
Well, do you know? I think the more worrying thing about all of that is that there's that deep fake business going on as well. I mean, if you've seen it, that AI.
Well, the Tom Cruise ones are actually really good and quite frightening. And I think all this AI technology as well is really scary because people can actually call somebody and pretend to be you, and that has become a massive thing.
That's worrying. But also, there was a deep fake that of Meghan Markle, and she was dancing, but it wasn't her. They'd put her head on top of it, and I think it was a scene off something like Frasier or something. I can't remember the show that was on Seinfeld or something, where she gets up and starts dancing. I've actually got it on my social media.
But with them,
But the point is that these days, people can really... It's hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, it is very hard to tell. But I'm not surprised that those 2 are not in England for Christmas. That was, I think, expected.
Yeah, they've not come to England for Christmas. But apparently there were the rumours that they were trying to sort of reunite with the family and trying to... do you know of any truth in that?
Well, it's almost been a year, right? It was the beginning of January that his book came out. And... So I don't know when the next book is supposed to be coming out. It must be on the horizon.
You'd think he would give up on it, so stop writing books, for goodness sake.
He's in a contract, he can't...
So he has to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Have you been watching any of The Crown at all?
I have been following The Crown. I think the actor that plays Dodi is amazing. He's incredible. He's really... it's unbelievable, actually. I think the actor...
I haven't watched any of it. I can't watch it.
And actually, Mohammed Al-Fayed, that actor, is excellent as well. Looks just like him.
Wow. See, now I can't watch any of it because I think it's... For me, it almost feels like it's slightly libelous that you're actually making up stories of some people who are still alive and then almost pushing that narrative as though it's only a fun thing, but some people will take it as though it's the real thing.
Yeah.
And I just don't get how they sort of get away with it, really.
I don't know, because they say it's not real, right? So, but the way they've done the character of Mohammed Hafid, how he pushes his son to be with Diana, and basically they end up together because of the dad pushing them to be a couple. It is interesting, for what if that is true or not.
Yes, of course it's not. Well, who knows, eh?
He wanted that British passport, didn't he?
Maybe. Yeah, there was that, but, you know, some of it seems so far-fetched, it's ridiculous. I mean, some of the Harry and Meghan stuff I've heard.
Far-fetched stuff is true, because it's so far-fetched.
So for Christmas, then, what does Christmas mean to you? Because we're talking about it later on in the show, and I'm wondering...
Christmas means getting together, friends and family, and enjoying and having a good time together.
Do you have children, or you don't have children?
No, I have a dog. It's my child. And I'm excited because I am flying off to the sun very soon to get some heat.
Oh.
And I think I'm going to be seeing Lizzie there.
Where are you going? Oh, I see. Yeah, somewhere very nice.
Some bikini weather awaits, and spending Christmas with family in the next, today and tomorrow. Going to be doing the Christmas thing. So.
Well, listen, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Lady Victoria.
No, and see you in the new year.
I know, well, yeah.
24.
We'll have to get you back on again. We'll talk about everything royal and everything you're getting up to.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Anything big this coming year? Have you got any special plans?
I mean, right now, I'm working on my brand at the moment. So I set up my bikini brand. I'll be wearing some of those on the beach next week. And so, yeah, concentrating on that and a couple of other things.
It's fabulous. Well, you've got the figure for it. I don't think I'll be wearing anything like that.
No, you would look great.
You think? Maybe I won't pose.
Yeah.
You know what I find really annoying when people...
bikinis.
You know when people pose on social media and they go... When they're wearing... I find that a bit silly, actually. You're not going to do that. Don't do that.
OK.
I promise myself I won't be doing that. I wear something, I do a picture, that's it. I don't do this. This is ridiculous. Lady Victoria Hervey, thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you. Happy Christmas to you. Right, well, so that's Lady Victoria Hervey. This is GB News, 12 minutes after 5 o'clock. Up next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? Then, after that, my Christmas quiz. You won't want to miss it.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's 16 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time, though, for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? As we all scramble about buying the last-minute presents and stressing over the turkey, are we in danger of forgetting what the real meaning of the holiday is all about? A chance to spend time with friends and family, to reflect on the year and celebrate the birth of Jesus. Remember him? But are we in danger of forgetting these crucial things about Christmas as it becomes more corporatised and a month-long saga? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? Now, our London reporter Lisa Hartle has been asking people on Oxford Street what Christmas means to them.
Christmas has normally meant sort of basically love and peace through a harmony for everyone. But I feel that at the moment we're in a rather difficult situation.
Family. Yeah, that's it, I think. Food. A lot of it. Thank you.
Happiness. It means happiness.
Family, yeah. Just spending time with family and reconnecting with old friends, I guess. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Yeah.
Spending time with family and enjoying it.
Family, shopping, and lots of cooking.
I suppose it's, spending time with the family, just being around everyone and, enjoying it all, I suppose.
No mention of baby Jesus. Right, so joining me now is Dr Gavin Ashington, former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, and Gary Mond, chairman of the National Jewish Assembly. I'm going to start with you, Gavin. Thank you so much for joining me. Does that surprise you that nobody's mentioned anything? There's no biblical mentions or anything within that. It's just friends, family and all that kind of thing. Presents. Oh, we can't hear Gavin. Oh, Gavin, we can't hear you for now. We'll come back to you in a minute. Gary, are you surprised that there's no real mention of baby Jesus and all the religious connotations associated with Christmas?
Well, the most important thing to mention, of course, is that Jesus was Jewish. I'm chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, and I don't think things have really changed very much since I was a child, in that Christmas was always a time for festivity. It's a season of peace and love, and Jews like to participate, at least in the non-religious aspects. For example, we'll all have turkey, or many of us will have turkey for Christmas dinner, and many of us will, of course, listen to the King's speech to the Commonwealth at 3 p.m. It used to be the Queen when I was younger. So I don't think that's really changed.
Do you not think? And because you're a practicing Jew, do you feel that we don't do enough to keep Christmas really current and present in the minds of the British people, and remind the British people that this is a Christian country, so they should really, avoid anything that sort of tries to limit or minimise the term Christmas and things like that?
I think it's very important that we need to remember we are a Christian country, and we Jews, so we're a minority, but we're delighted that we live in a tolerant Christian country, and we play our role in helping helping the cultures to get on well with each other. And we also, of course, when we go to synagogue, we also have a prayer for the king and the royal family. So we're very much integrated culturally, although, of course, we're very separate religiously.
Yeah, I quite like
The two should not be confused.
Yeah, I quite like that, though. I think that's lovely. That's the whole idea of, you know, different religions, everybody getting on well and actually celebrating each other's religion. But it would seem the British people don't seem to really remember the sort of religious part of Christmas. Dr. Gavin Ashenden is back with us. Hopefully we've got some sound now. Gavin, what do you think about that? Do you think
Hello,
people...
Nana, can you hear me, first of all?
We can hear you now, yes. Good.
Oh, well, that's a relief. That's wonderful. Well, I think probably the best way into the conversation is to say that the tolerance that we've just been talking about is dependent to a large extent on Christmas, because the message of Christmas is that there is a God, there's a creator. The Jews have set the platform for us. They've given us the language and the framework. Jesus was Jewish. And this God made us and loves us. And therefore, when he became a human being, he made humanity sacred. In other words, we have to treat everybody else as sacred because they're in the image of God. And this is where the notion of tolerance flows from originally. Human beings are sometimes not very good at it, but that's the principle that we aim for. And so in a way, as the tolerance is being stretched in our society and breaking down, it's really quite important that people get reintroduced to who Jesus is, because otherwise there is no basis for tolerance beyond what suits your own convenience.
But those people that were questioned there on the street, none of them mentioned the birth of Jesus Christ. Are you worried that actually this country is losing its sense of Christianity?
Yes, of course I'm worried. We're suffering from a kind of religious or cultural Alzheimer's, where what made us who we are as a civilization. There's a great deal to be thankful for in Western civilization, particularly its sense that there's a struggle between good and evil, and human beings have to be protected and honored and looked after. I think there's a danger that as we descend into a kind of marketplace of cultures, which is the sort of meltdown of multiculturalism, there isn't anything to hold us together in terms of our values. And so one tribe can be set against another. One self-interested group of the rich can be set against the poor. And Christianity challenges that. If people don't understand the wonderful reason why, and it is a wonderful reason, there's a great danger that we slip into this partisanship and this primitive tribalism. Progress doesn't always mean we're going forwards. We seem to be going backwards at the moment, and I fear it because of the loss of our religious memory.
I can remember the time when they said they were going to take religious studies off the curriculum as a compulsory subject. And I was quite young at the time, and I remember thinking, if people don't study that, where will they get their values from? How will they know right and wrong? And it wasn't specifically the fact that it was Christianity, but the fact that there was a system, an agreed structure, the 10 Commandments, an agreed set of beliefs that we would all adhere to, irrespective of what your faith was. And I noticed, Gary, you're nodding your head to that one.
Yes, Margaret Thatcher many, many years ago used to talk about Judeo-Christian values a great deal. And it is very, very important that as greater proportion of this country as possible has some kind of faith. One of the advantages of people having a faith, be it Christianity or Judaism or whatever, is that it creates a sense of values, and if you have those values, it also fights against criteria such as anti-Semitism, because the more people have got faith and the more people have got beliefs, the less you're going to find problems such as anti-Semitism. And certainly since the disasters of October the 7th and the heinous massacres that took place that day, my group, National Jewish Assembly, has been meeting far more and working far more with some Christian groups. And I've witnessed how the most faith-adhering groups within Christianity, the ones who go to church on a regular basis, tend to be the strongest supporters of the Jewish community and the most pro-Israel in this heinous war that's going on.
But you could argue that, I was going to just please say, you could argue that actually religion is the source of many of these wars. And
That too is true. But I'm focusing more on the values rather than specific religious aspects. And the values, particularly the 10 Commandments, which is at the foundation of those values. And of course, Jesus preached support for the 10 Commandments. It wasn't he wasn't not an adherent of them. And these are the basis of what Mrs. Thatcher used to talk about.
Gavin.
Well, Nana, I wanted to say that although you said it's an argument, I think it's a very poor argument that religion is a source of these things. It is an argument. It's a bad one. The 20th century was the most irreligious century we've ever had, and we created more conflict for secular reasons than there's ever been. What religion does is it restrains the badness. From time to time, it's failed, but it works better than anything else. And one of the reasons why Christians are so supportive of the Jewish community is because the Ten Commandments are the most astonishing piece of ethical gift that one can have. And we've been given them by the Jewish community, and they require the greatest honoring and treasuring for that extraordinary gift that God tells us that he's there, he made us, he wants us to love him and love our neighbor. If we put those things that the Jewish Ten Commandments gave us and that Jesus preached into practice, society would be radically different. And that's one of the reasons why we have to tell people about Jesus. Just one last thing. I don't think it's just a matter of people having faith. Everyone's got a philosophy. But there are some bad philosophies out there. And the Christian philosophy and the Jewish philosophy are really very good. They have created the whole of Western culture and all that's good about it. We need to be much more explicit in explaining their virtues.
All right, well, thank you for that, Dr. Gavin Ashington, former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, and Gary Mond, chairman of the National Jewish Assembly. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Let's see what you've been saying. Gary says, no, I think Christmas is as important as ever. Jenny, Christmas is no doubt a Christian concept and a Christian tradition. The key is in the name. Thank you for that, Jenny. Ashley says, let's be honest, Christmas has become a secular tradition. As you said, Nana, no one mentioned baby Jesus. People are losing interest in religious component of the tradition. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? And also, I think sometimes, not being unfair to some of the Christian religion and the churches, but it's boring, isn't it? Sitting in church and the chairs are cold. It's in a very stony sort of building. It would be nice, wouldn't it, if, lots of heating, a bit of gospel singing. You want a bit more of that. And I think in this country, some of it's become a bit formulaic and a bit boring, which is why a lot of people have lost interest. But if you just tuned in, welcome. It's 27 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? We'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. More of that on the way.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 5:30. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters have been rallying in central London. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! The demonstrators were urging Christmas shoppers to boycott what they say are pro-Israel brands. Traffic on Oxford Street was brought to a standstill as crowds chanted, "Don't fund genocide." Security guards blocked the entrance to fashion shop Zara, while dozens of officers followed the march. Police say there were no arrests. Meanwhile, today's been dubbed Super Saturday, tipped to be the busiest in-store shopping day of the year. Last year, shoppers were said to have spent over £1.5 million buying Christmas gifts. The Great Christmas Getaway is well and truly underway. The AA says it's the busiest day of the pre-Christmas period, with an expected 16.5 million extra cars on the road. Travellers have been facing delays by road and rail, with train passengers dealing with cancellations. More disruption is expected tomorrow as London's King's Cross and Paddington stations close for engineering works. The father of Kobe Makaria Dooley, who was stabbed in East London, has paid tribute to his son, saying the joy and laughter he brought to the world was taken too soon. The 4-year-old was found with knife injuries at a home in Hackney on Wednesday. His mother, Keziah Makaria, has been charged with his murder and is due to appear in court on Thursday. And police are investigating the alleged theft of a Banksy in south-east London. The piece, a stop sign covered with 3 aircraft that looked like military drones, was discovered at an intersection in Peckham yesterday. Less than an hour after the artist confirmed the installation was genuine, witnesses saw it being removed by a man with bolt cutters. The Met Police is appealing for information. And you can get more of all those stories by visiting our website at gbnews.com. Now it's back to Nana.
.33 minutes after 5 o'clock, we are the People's Channel. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Right now, it's time to return to the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? As we scramble about buying last-minute presents and stressing over the turkey, people in the shops as though the shops won't be open for weeks, when in truth it's not even 24 hours. In fact, there will probably be shops open on Christmas Day. Are we in danger of forgetting what the real meaning of the holiday is all about? A chance to spend time with our friends and family, a chance to reflect on the year and celebrate the birth of Jesus. Remember him? Yeah. Nobody seemed to. But are we in danger of literally forgetting these crucial things as Christmas becomes more commercialised over a period of time? So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, has Christmas lost its meaning? Well, joining me to discuss is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. I don't know who to go with first. Lizzie Cundy, I'll start with you.
Well, I love Christmas, but I think we've got to get back to basics, and we have lost the real meaning of Christmas. And I go with my mum to midnight mass, and I so look forward to it. It really does, and it just having family time, you know, and just remembering what life is about. It's not just about buying presents and what am I getting, and it's nothing to do with that. It's spending, you know, time with your loved ones. And I really don't think that religion does cause the wars. It actually stops, as was said before, and it really does. And we need to remember that. And I was so sad to hear that this is the first time in history in Bethlehem they haven't got the Christmas tree, and it's so shockingly sad. But we are forgetting. I mean, now we're not even allowed to say it's a white Christmas in fear of it being racist. I saw Keir Starmer calling it Happy Holidays. He did, yeah. And I've got him a present, actually, for Christmas. Got him a backbone.
I've got him some flip-flops. What are you getting him?
Is that right? He said Happy Holidays,
yeah.
So he's not using the word Christmas?
What are you getting for Christmas?
Keir Starmer?
Yeah, I'm going flip-flops. She's getting... What are you getting, Lizzie? What are you getting him?
I'm getting... Well, I could get him many things, but a backbone he needs.
I'd get him a personality transplant.
Oh, great. And I'm getting a Rishia compass, because he's lost his way.
I'm getting him some Cuban heels.
Or a Black Lives Matter badge or something like that. Or OK, Christmas. I think we need to separate it from what it truly means, and it's all about the birth of Christ. And
why?
Well, because there are two ways to... Correct, but I'm celebrating Christmas, and I don't believe in Christ, OK? But I'm still celebrating Christmas. So the meaning of Christmas from someone who is agnostic, OK? Not someone who says that I definitely don't believe, I'm agnostic about it. The meaning of Christmas is different for me, as is the meaning of Christmas for most of the people who claim to be Christians in this country. Lots of people claim to be Christians, but they're not practising. Now, for example, it's great to see you're a practising Catholic or Proddy, or you're a Catholic.
Well, I am a Catholic, but I try to go when I can. But I do believe, and I believe in prayer, and it's helped many people. I think it's helped me.
That's great to see. My pals who are British Sikhs, I'm currently missing the garage's Christmas party in Leamington Spa, OK? Every year we have a Christmas party, and they're Sikh boys. Now, they believe in some sort of Gurdwara or whatever.
Yes, Gurdwara.
Yeah, that's it.
Gurdwara.
So they don't believe in Jesus Christ, but they are still celebrating, OK, to steal Starmer's words, these happy holidays.
Yeah.
And you can do both. You can still enjoy Christmas.
But the meaning, I mean, maybe the meaning might have evolved, but the meaning of it, the ultimate meaning, and the reason why it's here is because of the birth of Jesus Christ. I mean, that is the reason why, even if you don't believe...
And that's why we're celebrating. And why I feel quite upset today trying to get into the studio. Trying to get into the studio today, yet again more protesting. And I know everyone, you know, rushing at the last minute to the shops, but the shops had to close. And I just think, yeah, many of the shops were closed, and I think that is disrespectful. It's called Super Saturday. It's time to be with your family, and that's part of the fun of Christmas. But I think it's very disrespectful of them just not appreciating our culture.
But Christmas, just to go back to our little divergence of opinion, Christmas, I would argue, for most of the country is not about Christ.
No.
I don't think on Christmas
morning...
the
answer to the question is that Christmas has lost its meaning.
For a lot of people, yeah.
Well, because there's the meaning of it, because obviously the whole point of it and where it all started was with the birth of Jesus Christ. Okay, so that is where it's from. Yeah. So that is the meaning of Christmas, where if it becomes something different to you, then in your mind it's obviously lost its origins.
And it has lost, and then we're losing our values in life.
Do you know, interestingly, I drove 96 miles to get here today. As I drove through Leamington Spa and Warwick, I was driving past houses and they were just completely bedecked with Christmas decorations. OK, I'd say 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 houses had fairy lights, Christmas stuff, yeah? Driving down, getting off the A40, the M40, A40, getting into London, and I actively was looking for any indication of Christmas in all of the flats and the apartments. I parked outside, hundreds of apartments, and I couldn't see one fairy light.
Gosh.
Well, I've got a confession to make. I haven't put the tree up.
Oh, Nana.
Well, I'll do it when I get back.
But I have to say, we're losing the real meaning of Christmas, and I find that really sad, and that's why I find it so important to actually go to Mass. And it does make you feel different. You do remember. It's time for reflection, and, you know, and so you can be kinder going into the year ahead.
I think so.
Kinder going into the year ahead.
Going into the year
Make
ahead.
a note of that, Miss Akua. Kinder to your...
listen to you. You've got a nerve, you have. You won't be back.
Well, I've just heard 3 wise men have given our Home Secretary a new book. It's called Ideas That Actually Work. So I hope he likes it.
Right.
Boom, boom.
Well, listen, this show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices onto the show. Their opportunity to be on and tell us what they really think about the topics we're discussing today. I've got 4 of them. I'm going to start with Alan. Oh, 3 of you. 3. Who's let me down? Right, I'm going to start with you, Alan Cook in London. Alan, has Christmas lost its meaning?
Well, hiya, Nana. Well, the 3 wise men, the 3 kings from Persia, you know, they brought gifts, one of which was gold. And you are looking fantastic in gold tonight. I'll tell you that first. Amazing. It hasn't lost its meaning. You know, religion has been absorbed into culture in this country. People are less religious. And it's our culture, I believe, which is under attack. So, you know, non-integration, mass immigration is eroding our culture. And so commercialism, I think, has been accepted. That's now all part of Christmas. It's part of Easter. But what we need is protect our culture and, through the back door of that, protect our intrinsic local religion, you know, Christianity.
Have you been drinking, Alan? I'm teasing you. He's usually got a glass of wine with you. Where is it? I knew it.
Well,
There's a cup of tea this time.
Mug, but it's water.
See, just water, very sensible. Right, let's go to Brian Dugan in Solihull. Brian.
I'm just on water as well, Nana.
Are you?
Hopefully will help the cold a little bit too.
No.
But look, yeah, but I don't think that we've lost the Christmas meaning at all. I don't think that people have lost touch with the Christmas meaning. I think it's evolved. We live in a more diverse world. But, you know, stripped down, boiled down, the simple message is to love your God and to love your neighbour. And I don't think Jesus distinguished between our Christian neighbours, our Jewish neighbours, our Muslim neighbours, our Buddhist neighbours, our born-again neighbours, or whoever neighbours. I think if we were to follow those 2 simple messages in our lives daily, we'd do pretty well.
I think your camera's got COVID as well.
I think it's a strong message to forward this Christmas.
Thank you very much, Brian Dugan. I hope you feel a little bit better. Right, let's go over to Jonathan Jones in Cornwall. I haven't got my tea. I'm on water.
Oh, no. Happy Christmas to you. I've got the tree up here for you.
Have
anyway.
you?
I know you've
very good.
And I feel a bit bad sometimes for how much Christmas is being commercialised, but it's at least people are talking about it. And, you know, Jesus is mentioned at one time in the year. Doesn't matter what faith they might be or no faith at all. And it might make people think, who is Jesus? So I think in that sense it works. And yes, it's probably changed from Victorian times, but when we blend up our Christmas tea, I think, is this over-commercialising it? And I think, no, the Victorians did it.
Christmas tea.
Filling your mug, of course.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Alan there, Brian, and also Jonathan. Have a wonderful Christmas there. It's great British voices. They've been fabulous, haven't they? They're always there to give us their thoughts, and it's a pleasure to talk to them. Listen, if you want a GB voice, to be a GB voice, not if you want one, go to gbnews.com and tweet us, send us a message, and we'll get you on. Right. On to a story, one that caught my eye today. Wham's Last Christmas has finally reached #1 more than 30 years after its release.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to...
But no doubt the question of favourite Christmas #1s drives passions high. So what was your favourite? White Christmas, Fairy Tale in New York, or perhaps Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas is You? Right, let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, you got your favourite Christmas...
That Pogues one. You know the lad who died recently?
Murdered everyone.
Fairy Tale in New York. Did you see the lad's funeral?
It was incredible.
It was a stunning funeral. I mean, it was incredibly poignant, but at the same time, how can a funeral be poignant and sad, yet also uplifting? And for the benefit of those people who didn't see it, basically, that lad, there was his coffin, it was a packed church, church and standing room also only, and outside thousands of people brought Dublin, I think, to a standstill.
It did.
And they had a band, former band members, and they all sang that song live.
Yeah.
OK, with all the beautiful instruments and
Yeah.
everything. And it was just so uplifting, yet it was also so sad.
Yeah.
And that would be my favourite song.
Yeah, a true celebration of life, wasn't it? That's a real...
But I think his son was 2 or 3 rows from the front, and I could see in his face, because people were taking videos, and I could see this young boy looking up at someone, leaning over, taking a video of the band playing, and you could just see in his eyes he wasn't sure, really, whether this was appropriate. That was just my observation. I may have misread the whole situation.
But I thought it was very beautiful.
I thought it was
very
incredible.
touching.
Lizzie Cundy.
Well, I'm going to say driving home for Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I'm actually in the pop video, Chris Rea. Yes.
you?
So,
Name dropper.
driving home for Christmas. Yes, I'm dancing with Lionel Blair. Oh, so many people.
I'd forgotten what a name dropper
So,
is.
yeah, sorry, I've had a life.
You have, you're a
Yeah,
so
so
wise.
that is my favourite, and I will be driving home for Christmas because I'm going to see my dear mother, so I will be driving home for Christmas. But yeah, I think that's my favourite, and I love making the video.
The stuff in your mind is I'm dreaming of a wife.
Can't say that.
Or I quite like I'm walking in the air. I love that
Alec
song.
Jones,
Alec Jones.
Because it's such a lovely song if you listen to it. Or it could be Oh Come On Ye Faithful.
Yeah.
Because there's a descant in it where you do your bit and I've got a few of them.
Oh, I like that. I like the Glory one because my mum's called Gloria. When he goes,
Some great songs.
yeah, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
You have to take a deep breath for that one.
Do you remember that Christmas carol? Little donkey on the dusty road. Sing along at home. Follow Mary.
Have you heard the sad news? They're going to ban mistletoe and wine. They really are.
Oh,
Richard's
what?
song, because you're not allowed to have mistletoe anymore. The woke brigade have come in and said no mistletoe.
Greg Lake, I Believe in Father Christmas. That's another beautiful song. That goes
That
very
is.
high-pitched.
It does.
That's a great song.
Actually, you'd make a great Santa, just looking at you. Sorry, I'm just...
You need some hair.
I'll get you some.
Right. But now it's time for the quickfire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie, your buzzer. And also journalist Danny Kelly. Thank you very much. Right, so please play along at home. Question number 1. You have 30 seconds to answer this. What gift was given on the 8th day of Christmas? Time starts now.
6, 7. Turtle. 8.
Gold
Lizzie
rings?
Cundy.
No, it's 5
5 gold rings.
Gold.
Oh, ring.
On the 8th day of Christmas.
Oh,
8.
go on.
Give me one letter.
T.
Turtle doves.
No.
I did on
Yeah, Danny
purpose so I
Kelly.
get it wrong.
Danny Kelly,
What?
what did you say?
Turtle doves.
No. I think it's... I'm going to say, I haven't looked... I think it's 8 maids a milking.
Oh.
I think... No! It's swans...
Oh,
Swans are swimming. I thought it was 7 swans are swimming. I thought it was 7 swans are swimming, 8 maids a milking.
8 swans.
Oh, it is.
Yes,
There's some clues.
yes,
there's some clues.
yes.
I'm right. I'll give you 30
sorry.
seconds.
You could've-
I'm right. It is 8
It
maids
is
a milking.
milks, yes,
I just didn't give you the
yes.
multiple choice. I didn't see why I
No,
should.
yes, being very mean at Christmas time.
So I was right. No, nil point. Right, question 2. They got it at home. Which of these is not a real reindeer? Is it A, Dancer, B, Cupid, or C, Dixon? Lizzie Cundy.
I'm going to go for B, Cupid.
Is it? And you need to press your buzzer as well. Nothing. Danny Kelly.
I think she's right, unfortunately.
Just
so I'm
say a
going to say
different
C.
one. Which is what?
Dixon.
Dixon.
No, I think I'm right, actually. Dixon.
I think you might be right,
Yeah.
Danny. Oh, it's Dixon.
Yeah.
What kind of Lizzie? What kind of a name is Dixon?
Yeah.
When have you ever heard somebody called Dixon?
I need to go to Dixon's. I need to eat TV.
I mean, Dancer, Cupid. But Dixon.
Dixon. Well, I thought it was a bit of a, boyish.
So I'm 1-0 up.
Yeah.
Did you not have it? All right, here we go. All right, so the
Sorry.
answer is, of course, Dixon. Well done at home. They obviously got it. Yeah, you got it. You're like, what's she talking about?
Sorry.
Question 3. What comes next in Wham's Last Christmas? Once bitten and twice shy, I keep my distance. Ooh.
Let's have the multiple choices.
That was...
No, there are no multiple choices. I keep my distance.
Oh, well, you can go then.
But you still catch my eye. Tell me something. Do you
She was in the
recognise me?
video.
Well, it's been a year. It doesn't surprise me. Did you know I had a date with Andrew Ridley once? But
Did
that's
you?
not
Oh,
the
really?
story.
Go on. What's that like? Go on. Talk to us. You've
Went
got
to
time.
rugby. We went to England rugby. It was great fun.
Oh, yeah. What's he like?
Great. Yeah, fab. I'll get him on difficult conversations for you.
I love that.
Yes.
Is he quite tall? Is he quite short? I imagine him to be quite short.
He's very fit, actually, slim.
Is he?
Trim.
Is he tall or short?
Tall.
Oh, yeah. I imagine him to be like a sort of like a little Rishi Sunak size.
Fella.
No, and he's very funny.
Oh,
and he doesn't mind the mickey being taken out of him, as you know what it's like at the rugby.
Yeah.
He turned up in a fur coat and big fur hat, and everyone sung Last Christmas at him.
Very good. So it's 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the answer is I keep my distance, but you still catch my eye. Right, OK, question 4. What colour are mistletoe berries? No, I haven't finished the question, Lizzie, so I'm afraid you may be out for this one.
Yes, thank you,
Oh,
Nana.
God,
No,
you
thank you.
did as well.
Yeah, but she only heard yours. That's
No,
okay.
that's because I'm
you
nearer.
both out. We'll
No,
have to do it
Nana,
again.
come on.
We'll start again. What colour are mistletoe berries? No, I got to do the multiple choice.
Oh.
I've never done this quiz before.
Is it A, white? Is it B, red? Or C, green? Danny Kelly.
Thank you, Miss Akua. It's B, red.
It is red.
It'd be a bit weird if they were green. If something's wrong with them, don't eat them. No, it's white!
Oh, no!
You could have said something different.
Oh, why did I even... Oh,
what a dope.
Yes,
don't take
I'm
any
more of a
notice
dope because I copied you.
Don't take any notice of what he ever said.
No,
So
no.
there's nothing.
Actually, that's a good lesson to go into the new year with.
And question 5. In what country is it a tradition to eat KFC for dinner on Christmas Day? Is it A, South Korea, B, Japan, or C, Madagascar?
You can have this.
Lizzie Cundy.
I think it's A, South Korea.
Do you think it's South Korea? Precious Buzzer, does it?
I'm going Madagascar.
You think Madagascar?
Yeah. Because it's such a random country.
People in Africa do like chicken. Let's see if you're right. It's B, Japan. You're both
wrong. What's the score? I think we're at a tie.
Neil
Are we at a
Quast
tie?
and both of you. I think it might be a tie. Yeah, so the scores on the doors are 1-1.
Right.
So well done to both of you.
Thank you.
Nobody won. I
Thank
think
you.
that's fair enough anyway, don't you? Well, listen, on today's show, what was the question we asked? I wonder what we've got anything up there. Well, listen, we've got so much to do. Tomorrow's going to be quite an exciting one. So, Danny, what are you planning to do for your Christmas?
Round to my 90-year-old father's with all the family, and family coming up from London, and my wife and I going over there. And this is what Christmas means to us, spending time with our families.
How lovely.
That's lovely.
Yes. And I'm going to be with my dear mum and all the family, my boy. My other son's in Australia, so I'm going to be missing him. But we're all together, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I'll be eating a lot of food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's when we can eat.
Turkey?
Loads.
You go for turkey?
Well, I've got these 2 little turkey legs. They're like really big ones.
They're not that skinny.
I hope they haven't gone off because I don't know how long you can keep them in the fridge.
Oh, yes.
But I'm going to cook the 2 legs. I'm not doing a whole turkey.
You don't like the white meat? You prefer
I
the
love
brown
it.
meat?
Are you being racist, Dan?
Here we go. Oh, here we go.
You're
That's the white brigade
And
calling.
you've got great brown legs, by the way.
I like a little bit of white meat myself. And brown meat. Goodness sake. What's wrong with you? Well, listen, I've got to say a huge thank you to you, Lizzie Cundy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And Danny Kelly, thank you to you as
Nana.
well. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And thank you to you at home for your company. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm going to leave you with the weather. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's remaining unsettled as we go through the rest of the weekend and in towards Christmas Day, but temperatures generally remaining above average for the time of year. This is due to high pressure bringing warm air up from the south, but low pressure sits up towards the northwest, bringing frontal systems across the UK, bringing plenty of wet and windy weather, particularly to western parts of Scotland through the rest of Saturday, and then later into Christmas Eve for western parts of Wales. We could see up to 80 millimetres of rain here. Generally remaining very cloudy elsewhere, although perhaps some clearer spells across parts of Scotland, but blustery showers pushing in, and generally remaining mild across the board into the start of Christmas Eve, perhaps even around 11 or 12 degrees across the south. So a cloudy, damp and mild start to Christmas Eve across much of England and Wales, with rain pushing its way eastwards as we go through the day. Blustery showers continue across parts of Scotland, these perhaps turning wintry over any high ground, and remain